Good evening, everyone. We have a full house tonight. That's good to see. This is the February 26, 2019 meeting of the East Longmeadow Town Council. I'll open the meeting now with our usual Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. During this moment of silence, we ask that you keep our first responders as well as our servicemen and women around the globe in your thoughts. Thank you. In accordance with Mass General Law, this meeting is being taped, and I'm required to ask if there is anyone else in the audience who is either audio taping or videotaping this meeting. If so, please identify. Okay, thank you. Number 3 on our agenda, public comments. We have 3 individuals who've registered to speak tonight. Just as a reminder, our public comment protocol is individuals wishing to speak at a council meeting must sign up in the clerk's office no later than 3:45 on the day of the council meeting. Obviously, that has occurred. Each person on the public comment docket shall be recognized by the presiding officer and shall state his or her name and address for the record when called up to speak. All remarks and comments shall be addressed to the council as a whole through the presiding officer and not to any individual member of the council, the town manager, or individuals in the audience. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Sections 18 through 25, speakers must conduct themselves in an orderly manner. A person who persists in disorderly behavior after a warning from the presiding officer is subject to removal from the meeting. Unless otherwise waived by the council, public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. That said, our first registered speaker tonight is Mr. Chad Rule regarding town sports fields.
Yep.
Yes.
I will. My name's Chad Rule. I live at 18 Deer Run Terrace here in East Longmeadow.
Good evening.
Okay. Well, I'm here in front of you to try to get help and support to have better fields in town, sports fields. I have 5 children myself that play in town, and our fields are really getting to be a big disgrace. As you can see from these pictures, I apologize. You got Wilbraham fields, you got Longmeadow fields, and you got our fields. Our fields, the infields are almost full of grass for the baseball fields. Our soccer fields have holes in them. Our soccer fields, the nets can't be moved in order to mow lawns underneath them. So when lacrosse goes to play, they lose the balls and the 6 and 8 inches of grass in there. Softballs, baseball are the same thing. They're grass infields. They're a 90-foot diamond in the center of town. If you drive by it, it's really pretty bad. And it's the same across the board. There's a couple fields in town that are nice, and the rest not so much. I don't know if you guys got the pamphlet that I gave you, or that I got. How do we fix this problem? Money, okay? The biggest thing is you get CPC money you can get sponsorships. Like other towns, they have signs up. People pay to have their signs up. We have prominent businesses that are willing to do that. Unfortunately, we haven't got the approval to have signs on our sports fields. So I apologize, I'm a little nervous here and kind of rushed, but it's getting pretty bad. It's getting really poor for the children to play. They're going to get hurt. And this is, people move into this town because of the school systems. They move into this town because it's a great place to raise their kids. That's why I personally moved here from Chicopee to East Long Meadow, because me and my wife were gonna have kids, and that's why we moved here, for the school system, for the better living. With the amount of money that we pay in taxes, to have this kind of conditions, and they just keep getting worse and worse every year, to where these fields are unplayable, it's kind of a disgrace on this town. And it's a disgrace on a taxpayer when we have other towns that come in and say that we can't hold tournaments here because they can't play on these fields. So I hope you take into consideration to move forward, and we can have a longer discussion about this. My email's on the paper as well. You guys feel free to email me, call me, whatever works, and we can go over this more. I don't know if my 3 minutes are up, so.
It's fine.
Just one quick point. Chad, if you don't mind turning
Yeah.
it toward the audience.
I apologize. Yep.
Oh, no, don't apologize. It's just, I know the audience wants to see what it is, as well as our viewers.
Okay. I emailed some pictures. Hopefully you guys got them.
We received
Okay.
those.
And you can see the bottom of the fences are bowed in from whatever, and it's just poor condition. And something has to be done. I would also recommend that possibly you look into merging the rec department and the parks department into one. So when a person like myself has a complaint, we can go to the rec department and they can kind of fix it, instead of going to the rec department, then going to the DPW and then trying to get it fixed. I know Wilbraham had that issue. They combined theirs. And they have staff that, because of their combining, they have staff that works on weekends as well, to help fix the fields on weekends. I don't know if you guys ever been to Spec Pond. It's beautiful. And it's the same thing. The rest of their fields in town are the same way. They've put a lot of money into their fields over time, again, by sponsorships, by the town. That's it. I apologize again. Just
It's fine.
nervous and
Nice
rushed.
job.
You get to
It's
put
a
it
nice
across
job.
out. Doesn't show.
But
If the council wishes to respond, we have to wait and do that under the next item. So
Yeah.
we can't do the back and forth exchange right now.
No, it's cool. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Larry Rich regarding a zoning bylaw, general uses 3.020. Mr. Rich,
I have my son with me.
that's fine. Just need to state your name and addresses.
My name is Larry Rich, live at 17 Autumn Ridge.
I'm Larry Rich as well, the younger, newer model. I live at 375 Stafford Road, Munson. I'm co-owner of the property.
Thank you.
Seeing we're being limited on time, I'm going to have to get right to my questions. My number one question is the town of East Long Meadow going to allow pot-bellied pigs as pets in residential zones? And before I can go any further, if you would like to hear my problems, I'll be glad to share them with you.
I think for the benefit of the council as well as our audience here and at home, if you could kind of give a synopsis of your
Okay.
circumstances, please?
We have a new neighbor that came into our neighborhood with one pot-bellied pig. They came with the option to buy the house they were renting. I've been working on this since December and I haven't been able to get an answer. Right now, they have 2 pot-bellied pigs. Possibly 3 months from now, we could have 8 or 10 pigs. The pig pen right now is 32 feet from our bedroom window. It's on an angle. So we get, on heavy rains, we'll be getting everything down onto our property. I wish I had more time. I don't want to take up anybody else's time. But if the town council okays potbelly pigs as pets, we get a whole new ball game in this town. Because this town made a major mistake back in the 70s or 80s.
I assume you're referencing the site plan.
Yes.
We all have that, so
No,
you can,
not only that plan, but I'm talking about the mistakes on 3020.
yes, okay.
Then you go to 3021. 3021 makes absolutely no sense to 3020. 5 acres of land on 3020, less than 5 acres of land on 3021, same procedure. Nothing changes, only thing that changes is double A and A. It's a yes. Your biggest taxpayers in town. So I'm hoping the town council will review this. But I have a major problem personally. I have a very large investment in my home. I'm paying $9,000 a year in taxes. And I don't want to smell pigs. That's the end of my discussion.
Thank you,
I tried to be brief.
and you did a great job. Well, as always, with any speaker, the council does take all of the topics under advisement, and if necessary, we would refer them to the various committees that would be charged with looking over a particular topic. So please know that.
Will I hear personally?
At some point, yes, you would. We strive to keep everybody in the loop all the time.
Okay, do you have anything to say, Larry?
No, I just, I had done some research on the whole potbelly pig thing, and it does seem like other towns that run into this issue had to pass an ordinance or bylaw to allow pet pigs. I know the zoning, looking at the zoning law, it does allow for commercial use, but they're obviously aren't using it for commercial uses for pet pigs, and I can understand having a bedroom window 40 feet from a pig pen. It's not gonna be pleasant, and I have worked on a farm in the past and really not adequate fencing. The pigs, one pig, when they had the first one, I already escaped once, was caught luckily in time before it started destroying things, but unfortunately it's an animal that does make a mess when it gets out. So that's really about it.
Okay, I just got one more
Sure.
item on 3021. Like I say, that I've been here for over 60 years. 3021, in my opinion, was put in for one person.
Okay,
And I don't want to mention names. If you
understood.
want to talk to it privately, I'll be very happy to do that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Have a good evening.
You too. And also under public comments, our third registered speaker this evening is Mr. John Mazzarino regarding last month's council meeting.
Hi, I'm John Mazzarino, and I am addressing some of the comments that were made in the previous town council meeting.
Sir, can you just, for the record, state your address as well, please?
Yes, I live in Williamsburg, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
The council, one of the council members brought up the idea that some of the signatures on the petition that we filed weren't valid. The town clerk and many others spent a lot of time validating those signatures against the voter registration list. And if he needed more, we had more to give him. I spent a lot of cold hours out there. People sign very quickly in cold weather. They want to get away from me as quickly as possible. But I spent a lot of time doing what I did. And the signatures on there, I've been assured in writing also, were valid. The indication that they were not, or there was something wrong with those signatures, is something I want to get on record tonight. And if there's any contestation to be brought up, we can bring it up at another meeting. Point two, I'm trying to keep brief. I have notes. My notes in front of me are because of the comments that were made here, not because of something I want to say. But we have a license to put forward that type of petition. And if you don't understand the meaning of license here, is that we have a right to peaceful assembly and to petition our government with grievances. That's in the First Amendment for any of you who have any questions regarding that. Talking to you behind me too. I feel we were treated, rather than go after the issues within the petition itself, we were treated in such a way that we were attacked as the petitioners. That's myself, Jeffrey, and our group. I feel that happened, and I want that on record also. I had questioned things such as the town manager hiring people from Connecticut, too many hires from Connecticut. I think that we have perfectly qualified people right here. Our fire department and police department run beautifully with people that are local. I can understand getting somebody from outside the area that wouldn't be particularly connected with us developers, so there wouldn't be some favoritism, shown. I'm trying to be reasonable about the whole thing, but my main reason for bringing this forward was to show the town manager when she had addressed me saying that the money I had lost. You people know the story. This is a fairly esoteric type of thing. But when I went to her and said I had lost a great deal of money because of mistakes made by the town in the process of my development, I was told that I might get it back at a later date. I wanted to bring this forward to show her that when a person's income is in jeopardy, they take great pains, and we all know what happened when this petition came out. We gathered the department heads, got a bunch of people here to speak on the behalf of the town manager. I even had somebody stand up and say 40 of those signatures were elderly people couldn't understand. People that were one of the acolytes that works in this building said that elderly people don't understand the things they're signing. I'm 78 years old. I'm willing to take lessons in municipal, state, or federal civics from anybody if they think they want to hold a candle to them. And again, to keep this brief, I just want these things on record. I hope you'll consider them, and I hope all of you will consider what I'm saying here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Under council comments, anybody at the table have comments this evening?
I'd like to
Mr. Ford.
kind of go back and address our first resident, Chad. So this is something I've dealt with for a very, very long time. I've coached soccer, basketball, and lacrosse in this town for about 14 years. I completely understand where you're coming from. It hasn't certainly been up to the standards that it should be by any stretch of the imagination. And I think there's a number of things that have to happen at the same time. So I kind of want to just separate the two issues. One is the solicitation of businesses to raise money. I think that should happen, and I think that we have to find a way to get the town to understand what we're trying to do and solicit businesses, but I think that money should be used for the kids, for uniforms, equipment, and things of that nature. And the burden of and the cost of the maintenance of the fields needs to be on, essentially the rec department and the DPW. So I'm happy to volunteer to start maybe a little committee and sit down with Bruce to understand what the schedules are, spring and summer, and trust me, I put a lot of time into trying to understand it and get people to kind of act, and it's like, when you have a game on Monday, but the field's not mowed until Friday, but it rains on Friday, so that doesn't get mowed for 2 weeks, and then the fields aren't lined properly, it's frustrating as a coach. So better communication, and I know that they have improved some things there, but there's the rec department, there's the high school, and then there's, you know, the essentially the youth programs. So, you know, what the disconnect is with in terms of like letting fields rest, fertilizing fields properly, aerating fields, watering fields, and things like that kind of come down to the fact that there aren't enough fields. Certainly there aren't enough soccer fields between travel soccer and all that. But we can start the process of getting the right people at the table, improving communication, and essentially working towards the end goal, which is safe playing fields, but you know, also something that not just safe, but really should aesthetically be a little better than they are. It's going to take a while. It's not something that we're going to fix, you know, this spring in one thing. And if we, but it is budget season, and if we have to look at the way we address some of these things and some of the funds we bring to managing this, then the time is probably now to at least have some initial conversations. So if there's some other volunteers, I definitely think we need people from the community. I'd be happy to volunteer. We probably need rec involved. We definitely need Bruce involved, or someone, you know, from your office. And we can get some dates out for some initial conversations. If you guys would be willing, you know, we probably could use at least 2 or 3 people from the community to help. And we'll get started.
And the rec commission.
Yeah, and the rec commission, absolutely. So if we want, I can get their contact information, and I can start to spearhead that, if that makes sense.
It does. It makes
Yeah, it's not an easy problem to fix. But and then the second thing is, and I think we need to have a discussion about, you know, there are people in town that we could definitely go and ask, would you like to put a banner on a baseball fence or on one of the soccer fields? I know there are people that do that because we already did some of that preliminary work, and there are many businesses in town that would put up a couple $100 for a little sign easily. So then we have to deal with how do we allow that to happen? Are there parameters that need to be put on that? And then where does the money go? So, you know, does that have to?
No, we have to start the discussion.
I don't think we need action by the council for you to volunteer to run an ad hoc group to brainstorm and address all of the moving parts, as you say. If you create a policy that allows for advertising on town fields, and some of those fields are on school property, there's some certain parameters against certain products that you wouldn't want to advertise. So all of those things need to be thought out and put on paper and addressed. But yes, I think as long as the DPW and the rec department and the recreation council and any other parent volunteers, only good can come of that if everybody puts their heads together, and you know, the synergy of the group will come up with some maybe an action plan. And yes, it will take some money, we know that, and it'll take some time, but it's high time for that mechanism to get going.
One more comment.
Mr. Anderson.
Is maybe we can ask our town council just to make sure, and I believe, and I know I've had conversations with people because I'm a proponent of having responsible advertising to raise money for this. I think that's a brilliant idea, and I think its time has come. But then I hear the naysayers are questioning that you can't restrict the type of enterprises that want to come in there. You know, let's say a company in Connecticut says, I want to advertise fireworks in New Hampshire, or gambling, or what have you. And I think what we need to find out is, you know, I mean, it's public property, it's on schools, you know, and I think we can all agree on certain things that we would agree. You shouldn't advertise cigarettes, you shouldn't advertise liquor, you shouldn't advertise things, and, you know, and that type of thing. But can we put these restrictions on? And, you know, through the chair, perhaps we can ask our town council just to make sure that see what other towns do and see if we can put reasonable restrictions, which I think we'd be comfortable with.
I know there's a lot of towns around us that do it, so we can also, I'd be happy to reach out to Wilbraham and ask them, what policies do you have in place?
Perfect.
We don't need to, you know,
Invent the wheel,
overcomplicate
right.
this at all.
Okay.
You know, I understand that there's probably some things, and then realizing what our signage laws are, but this is a little different. I mean, someone's putting up a temporary sign on a fence for a season. It shouldn't be too complicated, but I ran into a number of issues back in the day and just said that we don't allow it, and then I asked why. There really was no reason why. They just chose not to do it for years. So, and you just can't keep raising fees on parents. It just becomes untenable at some point. It's not fair, you know, when so needs to be some other ways to do it, and I think that's a reasonable way. So I'll look into it more on my end as well.
Okay. And we'll
See what we can do.
defer, for the moment, asking him, we'll see what you find out from Wilbraham and see what their policies are.
Okay. Can handle that.
Any other council comments this evening?
I would just add that the fields are an asset of the town of East Long Meadow. We want to maintain our assets, and we certainly don't need any liability with people with twisted ankles or whatever by not having the fields maintained. So that's it.
Thank you. Moving on to number 5, the town manager's report. Denise.
Good evening, everyone. I'll start by apologizing for being rude and texting in the middle of the meeting, but I got a text from the state senator that he'll be here around 7. So I just told him I would talk slow. I'm going to start with a couple of things that are new and not on my official report. One is I made an error in not having the Veterans Commission on this meeting because it was sort of a makeup of the snow meeting. I didn't think to have Tom put it on. So they've requested that they be on the next meeting, but you can see that they've done some, this is the Veterans Memorial group, that they've done some great planning so far. They're a great group, and we'll have them on the next meeting for a presentation, if that's all right with the council.
Yeah, most certainly.
The second thing that is new that isn't on my report is that we had a power outage that actually affected about 200 residents today. Kathy saw the emergency management committee team sort of in process. It worked very well. It was a live exercise. How we got everything addressed, we did it quickly. They were projecting originally that that power would not be restored to the area until tomorrow around noon, and with pressure from people on the emergency management plan, we had power restored by around 4 o'clock this afternoon. So kudos to the team. They work great together. It's a great asset to the community. Now I'll go on to my printed report. I also have the February 12th, but that's kind of old news. Do you want me to read that as well, or just go on to today's? I could be droning on for a long time, just today.
Just today. I mean, we all have it. There's nothing.
You read it, and it's
Right.
kind of...
The current event.
Yeah, current events is good with me. The 125th Celebration Committee continues to meet, planning events to celebrate the anniversary, in addition to the March 8th spaghetti dinner that I have tickets right here for anybody that would like them. Coming quickly is the Lions Club Fishing Derby on April 13th. There were also plans for a fire hydrant painting contest. I guess there was one done for the 100th anniversary.
Yes.
That everybody's really excited about that. And a Chalk the Sidewalks event. Don't ask me what it is. I have no idea. Limited edition challenge coins, commemorative holiday ornaments that are beautiful, and town pint glasses and coffee mugs will be available this spring. As soon as I get more information, I will pass that on. I attended the Veterans District meeting in Munson last week to discuss the services being provided to East Long Meadows veterans. We have the services of a Veteran Service Officer, a VSO, 4 hours per week through our participation in the district. The members of the district at the meeting agreed that we need clear definition of the services expected of the VSO and to look at the overall organization and funding of the district. Follow-up meeting is scheduled actually for Thursday of this week. The district was established a long, long time ago. The needs of veterans has changed since then, as have the needs of East Long Meadow veterans. We have about 900 veterans in town and less than 50 being served. So there probably is more things that we can do, but there isn't even a job description for the VSO, so there is certainly no finger pointing as to why it is the way it is. It's just let's try to figure out a way to get better services for our veterans. The LEPC Local Emergency Planning Committee held a half-day tabletop exercise, and thank goodness we did because we used it again this morning, on February 14th at the East Long Meadow Firehouse. The drill was extremely well attended with representatives from town departments, businesses, nursing facilities, and emergency management volunteers. I attached the initial drill just so you get an idea of what the scenario is that we kind of used as the exercise, and then it blossomed from there with different things that happened after the initial exercise started. I'm confident the community will be in good hands when an emergency arises. Later in this evening's agenda, I will briefly review the capital projects recommendations for fiscal year ending 2020. I have to give a big thank you to the team of Jim Broderick, Jean Delaney, Jim Walsh, and Sarah Menard for helping with the review and prioritization of this year's capital requests. Their participation improved the capital planning process. I'm asking that the council set up a budget workshop for next Tuesday, March 5th, for an in-depth review of the fiscal year ending 2020 capital recommendations. The council may also want to use that meeting for the joint council school committee meeting required in Article 6, Section 1, Step 1 of the Charter. The Director of Finance and I can provide the financial condition of the town, revenue and expenditure forecasts available at that time. We've discussed the council's fiscal year draft budget We've discussed the council's fiscal year 2020 priorities briefly as required in step 2 of the budget process requirements, and I expect to submit a draft budget to the council by March 26th. Prior to the April 1st deadline. I'm suggesting the council also plan a second budget workshop on March 19th for capital and budget planning. It can always be canceled if we don't need it, but I think we will need it. The council president and I met with the Hampden town administrator and Jeff Daly, an advisor Hampden is using while investigating how to address Hampden's need for adding town water and sewers to their infrastructure. The meeting was very preliminary, and Hampden has a lot to figure out. I don't expect that it will come East Long Meadow's way probably for a year. They don't have they have a lot of work to do. They don't have approval of the community. They don't have a way of supporting the infrastructure. They had thought that possibly East Long Meadow would want to be their administrator, and Kathy and I were pretty clear that that's not something that we would be interested in doing. So they need to figure out how they would do that piece of it. There were a lot of pieces that need to be done, as well as just paying for it and planning it. So it's a long process they have ahead of them. On the other hand, we did not cross anything off the table. We did not. It was not a no. It was a absolutely. We're always open-minded to whatever questions there are. It's not a no. It's a do the homework and then come back when you have a more solid plan. So it went well. I think the meeting went well. And there's more to follow on that, but it'll probably not be right around the corner. Progress has been made to simplify the business certificate process with certain types of businesses. I attached the updated and the simplified, and you can see quite a difference. One is cluttered and full of boxes and writing, and the other is pretty clean. That's a credit to the support staff that did a great job. I've asked the town clerk for an update on candidates that have taken out nomination papers for the June 4th local election. As of February 22nd, the following have taken out papers. For the town council, Ralph Page, Kathy Hill, and R. Patrick Henry. And for the school committee, William Fonseca, Elizabeth Marcion Boucher, and Antonella Roschilla. Nomination papers must be returned by March 12th, so that's not that far away. At the February 20th department head meeting, the town clerk and the IT director reported that posting of meeting agendas has been changed. The library's message board that has shown only portions of the council boards and commission meetings because of limitations in the program will now be changed to just have the top lines that show the board or commission or council, the time and the place of the meeting, and then there will be a reference underneath to look at the website. Also, all agendas are going to be posted as they are now in the outside of the town clerk's office. So it's a clearer format, I think, a consistent. It'll be easier for people to read. We've certainly taken your lead, Don, on making sure that it's not click and then click, and then, okay, now I need to open it or download it. We're looking for consistency, for cleaner way of getting it done. It's a longer process than we'd like because it's touching all the different departments, lots of processes that are in place. It's just not as easy. You all have been involved in government long enough. You know government doesn't go fast. That's all I have. I have dates to remember, and you've seen all of those. That is my report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the council? Mr. Anderson.
I just got a text, actually, by coincidence, from a constituent. And she brought to my attention in Hamden, they had a water sewer public information meeting last night. But I don't have the results. Anyone know what happened and what transpired?
I am not, we knew
they were going to do that. It was essentially to educate their residents. What they had planned was a brief PowerPoint and a Q&A opportunity to explain, show the residents, here's our problem, and here's how it can be fixed, and just to get everyone who had an interest up to speed on, what does this action plan need to look like in order for it to come to fruition.
Okay. They're also planning to look into a DIF, as we have at that busy intersection, and I think that was part of the presentation last night, was to explain what that is as well.
As well as to, I believe their town administrator was pursuing some grant opportunities.
USDA does granting,
yes,
for sewer projects.
Yeah.
And they were looking into that as well. So it was more just a comprehensive look at what might be coming up in the future, so that it's not a surprise to residents 6 months from now or whatever, that they would be asked to be funding something or approve something. It was more just a first step.
And they said they would probably do follow-up public information,
more than one of
down
these
the road as momentum built.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Can you possibly give us an update on the HR department, currently the lack of, and how you're progressing?
The HR department is still without a director, and the secretarial piece is just being filled by somebody else temporarily. I have found that with the great labor market that is not reflecting a lot of unemployment, that people have jobs, and what we're getting for applicants is really not great. So I have recently looked to possibly getting a consultant to come in and do our HR, and at least see if maybe that's something that would work better for us. We'd have support staff for them, but maybe we can do it through a consulting service that would at their fingertips, have things like policies and procedures that we don't have in place, have expertise in handling the pieces that we need that are HR, and yet not have somebody that's on board that requires benefits and all of that. So that's the direction I'm heading, only because the applications that I got were really not great. And I don't want to settle for second best.
Good. Thank you.
I'll just, to the chair, just quickly
Sure.
add that, you know, I work a lot in the Boston market space, well, most of, all of New England, and this is a significant issue all around, you know. Imagine if they're dealing with that in the metro areas, kind of what happens, you know, out in the more rural areas. So I'd rather get it right. I mean, it stinks that there's a gap there, but you know, it seems to make sense. Like, let's not rush and need to find the right person or find an alternative to get us through, like, a short-term solution for the time being.
In the meantime, I'm handling a lot of the HR, but that's not my expertise. I've done it before, so it's not that I am floundering, but I don't have the time.
No, your update's been fine. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Okay, item number 6, approval of minutes. 6A, the January 22nd, 2019 open session minutes. You have those in your packet. I will entertain a motion to approve unless there are additions or corrections.
Just one comment.
Sure.
To the chair. I mentioned it to the clerk of the council, Tom Florence, with regards to doing the minutes. Most of you who attend probably know that we get documents from the clerk talking about motions, and what we do is we share the workload. When we talk about a motion, unless we present the motion ourselves, it should be reflecting that we read the motion. So in the minutes, it should reflect that I read a motion, even though I voted against it. So I wanted to make sure that that stays clear, that in the minutes it reflects a council is reading a motion and not making a motion.
Okay.
That was it.
Sorry, are we going to adopt that change?
We can adopt that change, but I don't think it, if that's the case, what is the council's pleasure on that?
I'm fine with it.
It's just a verbiage kind of an adjustment. So going forward, or do you want these, is your intent?
I'd like to see these amended, but
Okay.
I also like to see them in place moving forward, sure.
Okay, so then let's craft a motion that does both of those things to more specifically use wording that speaks to whether a motion is read versus a motion is entered into discussion by a council person, as well as to adjust those situations in the January 22nd.
I'll second that.
Just a thought, through the chair, just trying to be clear. So basically, if someone reads the motion, they're not making the motion, so then somebody else would have to say so moved and then second it? They're merely just reading it? Is that what we're doing?
No, for minute purposes, I understand what Tom's saying. For minute purposes, it makes it look like I created the motion.
Oh.
Even though
I
you
see.
might oppose the
There's a
motion,
distinction.
you don't have a
Right.
choice.
Okay.
Our name's on it, so we have to read
We
that
take
one.
turns reading it.
So I mean, semantics is the right word, but at the end of the day, we read a motion, and then the vote of what we're all going to be on record of what we voted, then will be in the record as
But
separate.
just another thought, maybe to streamline it, is if, let's say you're asking me to make a motion that I'm not particularly comfortable voting for, maybe I could just say, through the chair, I'd rather not make this motion. I'd rather have another counselor do it, which I don't think would be a problem, and make it a little, clearer that way. I'm just trying to think of a way just to keep it nice and simple.
Yeah, what I was trying to clarify is the fact that you're reading the motion, you're not making the motion, because in the minutes, which could be read years from now,
Yeah.
it's not going to reflect the true essence of what happened.
Then maybe,
You didn't make that motion, you read the motion.
but maybe if you didn't embrace the motion, maybe you'll say, I'd rather not make I'd rather not read this motion because it'll infer that, could you have Counselor Ford, Anderson, or somebody else read that motion so that way it's a little clear? I don't know.
I think we can, among the council, before we start the meeting, say that. We can just accommodate that need. Trade, right.
Yeah.
These orders of the day, which are the reading of the various motions for the public's understanding, parallel what the agenda is. And in a arbitrary arrangement, each of us is assigned to read a motion. And so if, for instance, I'll use your scenario, you were assigned one and that is something you're not comfortable with, then we can just hand off informally before the meeting starts.
Okay.
I don't think we have to.
I think that would be.
Yeah, that's
I can live with that.
right.
Or verbally comment that I'm only reading the motion, it's not my opinion, you know.
And only if somebody is of their opinion, then maybe let them read the motion
Right.
so that it's clear
There you go.
for future readers of minutes.
Yeah. That's fine, so we can just move to amend these minutes.
Right.
Right.
So is there a motion on the table?
On the
It's
minutes.
like a tennis match.
Who's going to make it?
Are you amending the minutes?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to amend the minutes to reflect when a counselor has read a motion, it's truly read a motion or made a motion to reflect that in the minutes. And there's a couple of corrections that would take place in our current minutes.
All those excuse me, is there a second to that motion? Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 Those opposed, please say no. And there are no abstentions. Motion carries.
Then I'll make a motion that with that clarification in the minutes, that with that clarification, we approve the minutes as amended, was it January
22nd.
22nd.
For January 22nd, open session.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the January 22nd open session minutes.
I believe it needs a second. Paul
He
moved
did.
it.
Yeah.
Did you move
No,
it, Paul?
He moved it.
Paul.
A second.
Okay.
Second.
There we go.
All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Those opposed, please say no. Motion carries unanimously. The next item, January 22nd, 2019, executive session minutes. Those are also in your packet. If there are no additions or corrections, I'll entertain a motion
I can
for
make a motion
acceptance.
to accept the January 22nd executive session minutes as is.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the January 22nd, 2019 executive session minutes. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, please say no. Abstentions?
One.
Right, so motion's approved, 501. The next item on our agenda is communications, correspondence, and announcements. And as Ms. Menard just mentioned a few minutes back,
I understand the senator is here.
is the senator here?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
We want to do the
this is
liquor
an
license?
pardon me?
We want to do the liquor license while we're waiting for him to walk
Okay,
in?
but we need to come out of, a motion to come out of
order.
out of order to move to orders of the day, 8A.
So
Second.
moved. Yeah.
Third. Kathy made the motion. Mike seconded.
All those in favor of moving out of order to move to 8A, please say yes.
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 Those opposed, please say no. Okay. So under licensing matters, there is an application for a one-day liquor license for St. Luke's Church for the Pasta Dinner fundraising event on March 8th, 2019 to benefit East Long Meadow's 125th anniversary celebration. You have that license application in your packet, and if there are no questions, then yeah, we are going to waive the fee. Can we have them?
Yeah, that being said, I'll make a motion to approve a one-day liquor license for St. Luke's Church for a pasta dinner fundraising event on March 8, 2019, from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. to benefit East Long Meadow's 125th anniversary celebration.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve that one-day liquor license for March 8th. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed, please say no. Any abstentions? No.
Just a quick comment, if anybody
Right.
needs to buy
Tickets.
tickets after the meeting, our town manager has them, so $10 a piece, so just FYI.
So you need a motion to go back in
Or
order.
two for 20. Such a deal.
And now we need a motion to return to our normal order of business,
Item 7.
to return to item 7, our normal schedule of business.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of returning to our regular scheduled business, and I see Mr. Clark still doing timeout. Okay. Please say yes.
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 Those opposed, please say no. I suppose we can take a,
The next item is a complicated.
yes, I don't want to go further because it's more involved. Michael, a 5-minute recess, would that be sufficient?
Yes, and this is my fault, so I do apologize.
That's okay.
I incorrectly placed it on the calendar, so, but he'll be in momentarily. He's in the parking lot.
Okay, so motion to recess for 5 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are in recess. Wow, so. Sorry, you gotta wait.
What an entrance.
With that motion's withdrawn. Senator.
No recess.
All right. Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How's everyone doing? Thanks for having me. I'll defer to the chair or permission to speak? or-
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'll just be very quick and brief. I'm just here as part of our regular check-ins with each other. What I will say is just, we're approaching budget season, not quite. But we're approaching budget season. Of course, the governor has already proposed his H1 budget. House will be unveiling theirs in April, and then the Senate goes shortly after that in May. So I'm mainly just here to listen. So if there's issues, questions that you have, fire away. I'm taking notes. My colleagues, Michael Clark from my office and Stephanie Swanson from my State House office are also here. And happy to dive into specifics, but really just want to make this your time and time to answer questions.
I don't mind starting. I have a question for you, Senator. About a year ago, we were informed through your office that East Long Meadow would be the recipient of an approximate $1.1 million grant for the purpose of rehabbing our police facility.
Yep.
Can you give an update on that?
Yeah, so what you're talking about, the police station authorization.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So that was an authorization, a capital expenditure authorization. What now needs to happen after that's been completed is that the money has to be capitalized by the governor. So that is really at his discretion. The governor does the bonding, because they have to literally issue the bonds same way a town does, right? So the authorization is there, the line item is there. We've reached out to the Executive Office of Public Safety more than once, and we'll continue to, and I know the town has as well. So it's really an issue of making the case of prioritization for the capitalization, and I unfortunately can't speak to his priorities or how that works, but we would certainly work in concert with you to try to get the funds authorized.
Good.
What's the timeline for something like that? Does it expire at the end of this fiscal year, or is it on the table
yeah.
for 2 years? Or?
The authorization does not expire, so theoretically, it could take a while, and they've often, we've often had, had items get funded many, many years after the original authorization. So we don't have to worry about that element of it, and we can fairly easily renew it if we felt that was an issue. Unfortunately, it's, divided government. I can't control how the funds get capitalized, but, you certainly have my commitment that we'll work with Representative Hupalo, Representative Ash as well, to do everything we can to try to get those funds put in.
So we should just continue to stay on top of it?
Yeah, I think it's an issue of just making the case, trying to get the funds capitalized. If you want, there are other strategies we can begin to talk about. If there's, frustration with getting that done, we could do a straight line item appropriation rather than through the capital budget, and that the legislature does have more control over. But that will probably be for a lower amount. So it's just a trade-off. It's just a conversation we need to have. Do you want to take a lower amount sooner with more predictability, or try to make a more long-term, more uncertain ask for a much bigger amount.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Good question, though. Yeah, we've been asking about the police station also. Good.
Are there any other questions, Mr. King?
I'm just wondering if you can elaborate a little bit on the situations regarding failing foundations.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I don't want to take the
nice
whole night
light
up
topic.
Thank you for bringing that to town, yeah.
So, thank you, Mr. Kane. As I think you know, and the town council knows, we had a forum this weekend. So myself and Representative Ash and Senator Goby, whose district includes Palmer, right next door, were participants in that forum. That was really an information sharing and gathering exercise for us. We had 2 officials from the Department of Inspections there. So what we've been able to do is we did get legislation passed last year to set up two important initiatives. One is a reimbursement program for homeowners that want to get the testing done. So it's a 2-phase process. They require a visual test first, and then after the visual test there would be the core sample. And there's a fund, it's relatively modest, it's $50,000 that can be drawn down for reimbursements. It's a start, we can go back and try to work for more, as the issue progresses. Secondly, and I think also very important, is a new commission was set up, a standing commission that Representative Ash and Senator Goby will be chairing, to look at the sort of broad spectrum of issues around this topic. Quite frankly, I think the fact that the homeowners insurance companies are just completely denying claims is shameful. And I think that needs to be looked at, how this was able to happen in the first place, what went wrong in our consumer protection rules that are allowing homeowners insurance companies to basically say that they only cover your house if it completely collapses, but partial collapse they won't pay to fix. There's also a lot of concerns I know towns have about abatements and the reduction of property values and the impact that'll have on town finances. I wish I knew the answers to all of this. We're still trying to get our hands around the scope of the issue, which is part of why we did an information session in Brimfield as well. I wasn't there, but Senator Goby hosted it in Brimfield. We did the one in East Long Meadow. People can go to my website where they can download the form to apply for the reimbursement. I will say we've done, pretty extensive research and work on the issue. I've met with the insurance commissioner. My staff has been in touch with the Division of Insurance multiple times. I've met with the insurance industry, the homeowners insurance industry, and again, they've just completely denied paying. We have been in close touch with the Attorney General's office as well as counterparts in Connecticut. I spoke with the state senator who authored the legislation in Connecticut to provide relief. We had an official from Connecticut who's involved in the new program they set up, reach out to us recently, who I'll be speaking with. What they ultimately did in Connecticut is they passed, I believe, a $12 or $15 surcharge on new homeowners insurance policies to create a fund that affected homeowners can use to fund the repairs, which can be, you know, $150,000, $200,000, $250,000. So I don't know yet whether that will work in Massachusetts. That's part of what the commission needs to do. That's part of what these information sessions are about, is getting a handle on the scope of the issue. But you know, it's my heart really goes out for these families. I mean, I can't imagine, you know, I can't imagine it happening in my house, frankly. You know, we all own homes, and, you know, what you put into your home is really, you know, your life savings. So it was a tough session with everyone involved, but we're trying to maintain as open a policy about it as possible.
Yeah. Well, without the testing, it would be difficult to find. I mean, if you're just looking at cracks, I mean, stress cracks and failing foundations are two different subjects, but a lot of people were under the impression that it might have been the contractor that did the work, and it's not the contractor. It would be the aggregate, any material that was supplied that would be breaking down. And that particular company, I believe, was based out of Connecticut and is no longer in business. So it's not an easy fix, but at least we're looking at it, and we're trying to see what we can do going forward to help those that are stuck with properties with failing foundations.
Yeah, I mean, it's a set of circumstances and a set of facts that's pretty awful, you know, for the reasons you just outlined. You know, what I will say to give people encouragement is that we're on top of the issue, and I do think all of us are working as a team, you know, as the town, the state, you know, the effective homeowners. We had a great group of people from Connecticut who came to the session, you know, who went through their own kind of horrendous experience with this, and one of the pieces of feedback they gave us is, yeah, work as a team, stay united, you know, because unfortunately the tendency sometimes in a stressful situation like this is for everyone to start going at each other, and I think we just need to stay focused. The affected communities need to stay focused on how we get a solution for people. You know, the other thing I would say, I am not an engineer. I am not qualified to comment on aggregating concrete. I know that will shock everyone, but you know, it's important not to so panic. Like, you know, the vast majority of homes, even homes that have concrete that came from that quarry, will not have the issue. And even if you have the issue, there is time. I mean, obviously you got to do something about it, but there is time to figure out the appropriate course, get good legal counsel, get advice from, you know, on the tax implications and everything. So, you know, I think that's important for us as public leaders to make clear to people that, you know, we don't want to contribute to a sense of panic. That, you know, there's options, there's resources. People can reach out to us. They can reach out to families in Connecticut who have volunteered to just be a resource for how they handled it. So,
yeah. Well, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If I may, Sure. And I believe there's some remedy through the IRS through a tax credit, but that's a short window. What is it? You have to apply by 2020 or 2021 at the latest?
Yeah, Congressman Neal's office would be the best resource on the details of that, because it's a federal, it's has to do with IRS. I don't want to give people wrong tax advice when I don't have the figures in front of me, but I believe it's 2020 that the expiration comes up. So, you know, if people want to reach out to us, we can direct them to the right, you know, either to the right person in Congressman Neal's office, or Senator Warren had a staffer there as well at the session on Saturday. So, you know, she explained a little bit the tax issue also. So, and I know, yeah, our CPA here probably knows this better than me.
No, I don't. That's why I'm being vague, because I don't know the details of it.
Yeah. So, but you know, that raises a bigger point, which is, you know, there's been examination of, for example, using FEMA or FEMA emergency funds to help, because it really is an unforeseen emergency. So I know Senator Blumenthal in Connecticut and Senator Murphy have been working with Congressman Larson from the Hartford area, and of course Congressman Neal, and then also Ed Markey and Elizabeth Warren, to try to move federal legislation. You'd have to ask them for an update on that. I don't have it, but you know, I do think the good thing that we should feel encouraged by is that it is on everyone's radar now, and everyone is focused on it.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, the high school.
MSBA turned us down again. And what I'm wondering is, I mean, I think it's quite apparent that our school needs extensive repairs and so forth. But the question I ask, you know, from your perspective is the grant program actually adequately funded? Is there enough money in there that a school like ourselves could get turned down? Is there just the pie is too small, and what can we do to rectify that if that's the case?
Yeah, so great question. I think there's two elements of that I'll answer in turn. The first is it's undoubtedly the fact, and the data shows it, that the pie is shrinking and the cost of each individual school project is going up. So what you're facing is an issue of scarcity. You know, that as the pie shrinks, the needs only continue to grow. The cost of the construction goes up, and the funding sources have dwindled to the point where, you know, for example, they used to cover auditoriums. They don't cover auditoriums anymore. Pools aren't covered. But even other issues even other elements are continuing to be cut back, and the backlog is enormous. You know, there are dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of projects in the queue that are all worthy. So we have to have a conversation as a state about how if we want to put more resources in, and I think personally I think we should, how we do that in a fair and equitable way. Because I've seen this with schools around my district, that they just literally, as acute as the issues are, they're still in a queue. You know, with severity vis-a-vis 351 other cities and towns and hundreds, even thousands of other school buildings. So, that's an issue. So, you know, we have to think through whether it's increased funding. You know, we're going to have a huge debate in the legislature this year around education funding. You know, and will school buildings be a part of that? I think it's worth having a conversation about that. You know, there's been discussion about the lottery going online, because one concern is, as the lottery funds school buildings, you know, it's the 21st century. The lottery is not online right now. There's no digital lottery. You know, will lottery purchases start to go down, which means the fund for school construction goes down? It's just things to think about. You know, these are just things that are circulating, ideas that are circulating. So, absolutely. On your point specifically about us in East Longmeadow, I've been following this closely. I've been in close touch with Gordon and close touch with the school committee, and I'm frustrated. I mean, we all saw the kind of embarrassment, I thought, when those poor students were left in the rain. You know, after that mishap with the fire drill and everything else. I personally reached out to and called Treasurer Goldberg after that happened, and she's aware and has been following the issues in East Longmeadow, and we're going to be having her come out in late March. I don't want to say that the date will be in late March. We'll communicate it to the board. I just want to make sure we have it completely confirmed with her. But we're looking at a date in late March to have her come out, tour the school, meet with some community members, and at least, you know, open up more communication, so that we can make sure that the school project is at the, you know, as it continues to grow to the top of the list. So, but yeah, I mean, it's time for East Longmeadow to have a new high school.
Gordon's right here. I'm close to the school committee. I went, not as close as you realize.
You want the motion language?
Talk about preaching to the choir, you know.
Other questions from the council?
I've got just one. While I don't like generalizations, is there some information you can share with our folks regarding? I've heard a couple of dates with regards to switching hats again, going back to the foundation issue with the crumbling cement. Is that anything after 2002 is okay? And then I've heard anything after 2005 is okay, but not before that?
Yeah, so I want to be, you know, crystal clear about this. I'm not an expert, but what's been reported and what's been said to me is that the quarry in question was basically operating from 1983 to 2015. So the issue is really custom-built homes that were using foundations that were poured from that quarry, the J.J. Modis quarry in Connecticut, between that rough time frame. are the ones that are concerned might have an issue. So, I think the sort of process of elimination for the town to go through is okay. Maybe you look at old building permits or construction certificates or whatever to try to figure out, well, how many houses do you have that kind of roughly fit that criteria, built between 1983 and 2015, and then, and if you can't, the records are so-so. But, as much as possible, trying to kind of deconstruct, well, which houses and which contractors were using concrete from that quarry to at least kind of begin to do some scoping, about what your exposure might be. And I know Stephen Crane in Longmeadow has been doing that as well, and a couple of the other impacted communities. So, we could potentially even work together on a sort of method of doing that. But I think it would be helpful just, for the town to begin to do that, just to begin to figure out, are we talking about 10 houses, 100 houses, 500 houses, 1,000 houses, and work from there.
Okay. Thank you.
I would just add to that time frame, all the mixes that came out of that quarry weren't deficient.
Right.
That's correct.
It depends on what ingredients might have been installed or not installed, and to make it back to the aggregate that we're talking about, to make that fail. So
right.
Please, everybody that has a home with a foundation that was poured within that time frame, you're not subject to this crisis.
Yeah, I think we want to be vigilant and attentive, but not but not so unnecessary alarm. Yeah, because again, Mr. Kane's exactly right. There's a lot of elements. If the foundation was sealed, it's exposure to water that causes the degradation. So there's a lot of elements. I never thought I would learn so much about concrete.
Anything else for the senator? Yes.
Subject that I think we're both passionate about, you obviously way more because you're on the front lines of it, high-speed train, Boston. What's going on with that?
Yeah.
And is that going to be, is the train moving forward?
Full steam ahead, right? Thank you for the question. So the study is ongoing. The contract was signed and the development company is out doing the study. MassDOT is doing a series of public meetings and engagements. I'm on the advisory commission for the study. We had a meeting in Springfield several months ago, and we'll be doing more meetings throughout the study process and course. There will be a public hearing March 12th, and we can send the details out. It will be at the UMass Center at Tower Square in Springfield, and there will be the MassDOT officials who are overseeing the study will be there to solicit, comments and input from the public, and I'm sure they would take written testimony from the town council if they, if you so choose to submit it. So it's moving along. We hope it'll be done by the end of 2019. And, I'm optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic. I do have concerns that they're going to try to study it to death. So it's just something to keep an eye on. And, we want it to be studied and we want it to be thorough, but we also want it to move forward. So that's something that we've been in collaboration and engagement with MassDOT on. And, something I've really made clear is I think the study needs to take into account what the cost is of not doing the project, because with infrastructure there are high price tags. I'm sensitive to that, but something that the Erie Canal probably had a high price tag, so did the Hoover Dam. You have to look at it not just in terms of the dollars and cents today, but what it will cost the community if you don't make the investment. And so I hope that the study is really complete in its analysis and giving people a sense of the choice, right? Do we continue to have property values stagnant? Do we continue to have challenges with the levy limit in all of our towns? Do we continue to see jobs and opportunity hyper-concentrate in certain areas of the state, not here? What's the cost of that? That's not free either. So, that's something I hope that the study takes into account as well. So, thanks for the update. Or question, thanks for the question.
We're good. No other questions? Senator, thank you for the update and all of your information and time tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Always a pleasure. Okay, so moving on, we are down to item 8B, financial matters. B1, the emergency capital request for $43,473 from the Sewer Enterprise Fund free cash for repair and rebuild of 3 pumps at the Watchog Pump Station. Mr. Fenning.
Yes, we're looking for the emergency funding to rebuild 3 of our 60-horse pumps at our Watchog Pump Station. They are currently failing. During a rain event on January 24th, we received about 2.7 inches of rain. During this event, the pumps weren't keeping up, obviously based on the rain, the inflow, and everything else that's going into that station. We actually had to man that station 24/7, actually resetting the pumps. They were overheating because the impellers are worn. So therefore, obviously, we're glad we caught it in time. Otherwise, a sanitary sewer overflow in that location would have been very costly. So luckily it didn't happen. We identified the problem, so we're looking for the funding to repair the impellers on these 3 pumps.
Question?
Sure.
So I read through your brief. Is it possible to repair 2 of the 3?
The problem is the impellers are subgrade materials. We've actually contacted the manufacturer. They did have problems with these pumps, so we're requesting.
So they're under warranty?
They're not under warranty, unfortunately.
Of course not.
So we're looking to replace them, hard iron impellers, so we don't run into this problem again.
I understand. I guess I'm just saying.
Sure.
Pump, was it 2 and 3 that are significantly
Yes,
degraded?
yes.
And pump 1 being the farthest away was
Right.
not so much so. So can we use pump 1 for another couple of years?
I would say I can't say yes or no. I would say no. I'm worried about it, obviously it failing. And obviously we have redundancy in the pumps, so if something may happen, I would say no.
Bruce, can you, I'm just trying to remember, those pumps, are they servicing Southbrook?
Yes.
As well as Favorite Lane? I believe it's looped through?
Yes, it's one of our largest pump stations.
Yeah, so
Yes.
with a failure of that, you're
Yeah.
talking about at least 75 residents.
Yeah, at least.
They're gonna have
I don't
issues.
have that information
Yeah,
as
I
far as
do.
how many locations.
Thanks.
I just got a numbers question. How big are these pumps?
60 horse, they're quite large. I gotta say they're probably about 4 feet high.
The reason I ask is I noticed if you deliver them, you get to $7,000
Well,
off the
like you
coat.
said,
right?
we're doing a lot of work
So-
in-house. We're saving about $22,000 by removing the pumps ourselves and delivering to Worcester to get rebuilt. So,
Okay.
Question, are these the only 3 of the questionable pumps out there, or are there more out there from that 2011 batch?
that is the only batch we have.
Okay.
Those flight pumps, yes, at that station.
Thank you.
I have a little question that's probably not related to the finances, but what gives you the indication? Where are you getting your first indication of the pumps failing?
Through our SCADA system. So we have a SCADA system that monitors, obviously, levels of our sumps and everything else. So as the sumps go to a critical level in the system, the next pump kicks on, and then subsequently goes down the line. So during that event, we're looking at the SCADA system, and the sumps are filling up, and the pumps are going on, and subsequently all 3 pumps are running at the same time and almost not keeping up with the load. So that's how we kind of identified the problem.
Yeah, they're not moving the amount of water that they need.
Exactly. And this is why I'm recommending doing all 3, Joe, is just because of this reason. I just don't want to see it happen, and the other impeller may be in very poor shape. We don't know that.
Any other questions? John, I think you have a motion there.
I do. I make a motion to fund emergency capital of $43,473 from the Sewer Enterprise Fund free cash for the purpose of repairing and rebuilding 3 pumps for the Watchog Pump Station.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Any abstention? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Okay, also under financial matters, B2, the FY20 budget presentation of capital planning. Denise.
I'm sorry? It is, it's shrunken.
Yep.
So, well, I have a full copy for you. So, yes. So that was a fun way to spend $40,000, right? Sewer pumps, thanks, Bruce.
No problem.
I guess that's a pretty good example of things that Kathy and I were talking today, things that should be planned and might end up on the capital plan, but you say maybe we could get another couple of years, and then all of a sudden they go downhill and now they're on fire. It was projected to be 2 years from now, but it's done, and then it disappears from the 5-year plan. So the 5-year plan, as well as the capital plan, are fluid documents, as is the overall budget, really. But this evening, I'm showing you a recommendation of the capital items for fiscal year ending 2020. I am suggesting that the documents that you have, you received a kind of shrunken copy in with your packet of information. We were supposed to have binders, they didn't come in today, but we have binders in the full-size copy that I expect that we would give you a lot of detail next week. If you have a chance to look at the capital plan, have any questions that you would want answered, I've proposed, as we had talked about maybe about a month ago, to have on the off Tuesdays, the Tuesdays that are not council Tuesdays, to have budget workshops that we can go in depth and have whoever you want to have come to those budget meetings to explain their projects as we get into the budget, to explain their budgets in more detail. I know there have been suggestions that the council should have more detail, and I'm hoping to provide that both by putting in my notes in the capital plan. You'll see that it is the comments that are made to the committee, and so it kind of explains it. It'll give you a snapshot, and then we can discuss it more at length. I've also sent along some of the project explanations that we were sent, so that you can see some of those, and the list of all capital projects that were looked at, discussed, and recommended by the committee that I spoke of earlier. So, because working on something like this, when we have all this other business in a meeting, a regular council meeting, is just a little too much, I think, to ask of the council. So with that, I think if there's any questions tonight, I can certainly let you know that we have a total of recommended from the regular budget, let's see, $1.2 million. And I am not saying that we should fund $1.2 million, because until we see the whole budget, you can't really do that. But we cut it off at $1.2 million because it's impractical to think that it would go beyond that. And we have some bonding recommendations, $1.3 million in bonding that we do have the capacity for. That would be our general government bonding, some sewer projects, that there is capacity to do those, and some water enterprise. Some are to be funded out of the enterprise fund, and some are to be bonded. So, and the last page of the projection shows what 1.5% of the current year's budget would be. That's what we're kind of using as a measure to say, to just give us just some kind of goal of where we would be cutting off. So all of that information is available both online, in your packet. Like I said, I think it's not the full-blown size, and I really dislike having to have teeny print. So you'll see that anything that comes from me is going to be a good size, even if it means that you have to fold the paper in half.
Good.
And we're putting together the binders. My thought is that we give you tabs. You label them how you want, because everybody has a different way. I don't even like a binder, and I label mine a certain way. So we'll give you the tabs, you put it together however you want, and as we give more information, you'll have one depository for all of that. Are there any questions at this point?
I have one question, and it's just something that jumped out at me because having been involved with the capital planning for going on 10 years now, I've never seen this on any of the capital plans in the past. Allen Street landfill closure. That's something new to me.
It is.
It's something I wasn't even aware of. We have a closed landfill on Allen Street?
Partially closed landfill. It was abandoned, and I don't have all the information in front of me, way back when. It is on the DEP's radar. Obviously, they've been on us for many years for the Summers Road landfill.
Right.
Now that we're
That's
at the
winding
final
down.
end of capping that landfill,
They came and visited.
they want us to continue our efforts and to finish capping that landfill.
The
So
Allen Street.
this is not, you've been aware of this? I know the Summers has always been an issue.
Right.
Right.
And we've been dealing with that in a phased approach.
Right.
Is
Correct.
that what's being proposed here?
yes.
Because I
This-
saw 150 and then it went down to 75.
Yeah, but you'll see that in the notes, this is a $1 million+ project, and that's only projected. We don't even know for sure until we do the studies and all of that. And even if you do a study and they say, you know, this looks like what it's going to be, they start really poking around, and it could even be more. It depends on how it's impacting the water quality in the area, you know, the way it slopes. There's all kinds of things that capping a landfill is unpredictable, extremely expensive, and something that is difficult to plan for. So we can't fault anybody that didn't have it on their radar before. I think the focus was on the Summers Road one, and this was sort of in the back burner, but as we're getting down in Summers Road, the DEP is now saying, so what are you going to do about Allen Street? Right. We had a meeting, maybe about 3 months ago on Allen, because they're now concerned that we start thinking about that. So we put in 100, or the request was for 150. I did ask if we at least show that we have a commitment to doing something. 75 is a substantial amount of money, 75,000. But at least it breaks it down a little bit until we get to a point where we have a plan. Right now, that's to get the plan. Once we see how big that nut is, then we can figure out how we go about spreading it over a number of years.
Yeah, there's actually another landfill on Kibbe Road that probably people don't know about, so we do have a few landfills in town.
You're
Did the
full
state
of
mention that?
landfills.
Yeah.
Well, like they said, they come at you at like you said, the low-hanging fruit first, and as you do things and see what a great job we're doing, want us to complete.
Was there a time frame, Bruce?
No.
With Allen Street, did they give us a time frame? They said you have to do this?
They go out and inspect it, probably, I guess maybe quarterly. Mr. Hines goes out there, walks through, checks the place out. He's very adamant about ATVs and things of that nature going out and ripping up, obviously, the uncapped landfill. So we're out there probably once, twice a year, putting bollards up or trying to keep people off the property so they don't disturb the landfill.
And one of their concerns, if I recall from the meeting, was that there's a brook.
Yes, there's a brook.
So we want to be sure that it's not headed toward the
Drain it into
water,
it, yeah.
because that'll add to more
Sure.
serious
Okay.
issues.
So this is a mandate, but they've given us time to address it.
Yes.
As long as they see motion,
Correct.
that we're doing
Exactly.
something, that we're
Exactly.
spending and making the effort.
Like you said, if funding isn't available, obviously, as long as we're moving forward in some way, shape, or form, they're satisfied.
Okay. That was it. I've got other questions, but they can all wait for the workshop. It's just that one, it was like a light
Yeah,
bulb,
yeah.
two light bulbs.
A new
going off.
one.
Yeah, that's new.
Yeah.
So, to that end, Denise is proposing next Tuesday, our off Tuesday, for that workshop, and we will need to post that by Friday in order to do that. What is the council's pleasure? Will everybody more or less be able to make it?
Not available that day. No, I'm not either.
Okay. Paul, I'm sorry, I didn't.
I'm not even.
Okay.
It's tough this time of year to get 4 consecutive
Yeah.
Tuesdays off.
I know.
So our normal meeting is the 12th?
Our normal meeting is the 12th, yeah. And so
can
the
we do one-
March,
Can we do 12th and then one and pick a date in between and then do our second March, I don't know.
the March 5th meeting would be strictly budget, no other business.
Correct.
Right, to do questions and answers. And you're also suggesting that March 5th be the joint meeting with the school committee?
I think that's a good idea. We need to
I'm
get
not
that done.
opposed to it. I
Yeah.
want to understand if the committee,
We have our budget presentation March 11th, so it should be after that. Our budget will be finalized to bring next week.
This is a before you do according to the charter, it's before we present our budgets, our final budgets to the council, or to,
per
By
the
charter,
charter,
yeah.
we're compelled to meet with the school committee once a year
Right.
prior to the finalization of the budget to have those discussions.
But we don't have a budget to bring to you for that.
That's not what it is. It's not clean.
We don't have to be there. No.
No, you have
You
have to be there. You don't have to have your budget.
Capital
Okay.
or operating.
So it says as part of the, let's see, where is it? The president of the town council shall call a joint meeting of the town council and the school committee prior to the commencement of the budget process to review the financial condition of the town, revenue and expenditure forecast, and other relevant information to be presented by the town manager in order to develop a coordinated budget. So although we're gathering all the facts, if there's some urgent thing that comes out of projected or discussion that we all come to a goal of, we're not doing an increase, or we can go up to 3% because it's Christmas, So it's that kind of a...
Understandable.
Yeah.
All of our members aren't here tonight, so I don't necessarily want to commit to next Tuesday.
That's fine.
Can we let you know?
Yes, please let my office know.
Well, two of us aren't available anyway.
I know, we haven't committed
I
to
was
next
thinking
Tuesday
maybe do
yet.
it
Yeah.
on the 12th and at 5:30.
I wouldn't be opposed to doing it earlier in
Oh,
the day and a different day.
Yeah, or 5 o'clock and have an hour for the budget.
Yeah, we do a 5 o'clock, somebody bring pizza and 5 o'clock meeting.
Do you think that will work if we,
Well, we have staff that needs to be here as well, and they need to have time to go home, drop off babies and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, kind of need to do that. Unless you want three children at the
So
meeting.
5 o'clock is a little tough.
Pizza, babies, all good.
No, can't call an Uber.
5 is a little early for people to be able to get back.
5:30?
but will that
I
address
stay here.
our, is that enough time to adequately do what needs to be done, is what I'm asking?
I don't see that to be a problem because we have a good handle on what our finances are. And there are pieces, projections from the state, what we're going to get for revenue from the state. We can't predict that yet. It's a real guess. So we will put together.
Until later in the budget season, they're not finalizing their budget.
But
They're,
Because it's supposed to be before we even start.
Right.
That's what the charter says.
so we can do it, can we move our normal scheduled meeting back a little? Can we start at 6:30?
I-
And then meet with them at 6?
Come
Or
just
5:30.
leave regular work early and
What's that?
bring the kids
5:30.
early.
Maybe you go
I'll start
5:30
at
to
5.
6:30 and then start our meeting, then
I could
roll
do
our,
that.
or just
Yeah, I don't
have a
remember what we
super, have
did
a
last
super
year. Did we
meeting.
need more than a half hour?
I don't
I don't remember.
think you'll need a real long
We've done this
time.
every year. I just don't remember how long we took, and
I think we did it as part of the regular meeting.
Oh,
I think so.
And then we had meetings that were like 9:30 at night and, you know.
Yeah.
And if we ran over, then we...
whatever you want, just let us know.
Tom, do you, just to the best of, or Jeannie, your recollection, how busy is the March 12th agenda?
It's not too bad, there's no public hearings.
Okay, then that'll work.
So this could be the
And
public
keep it
hearing.
light then, just to push off things that don't have to be done,
And that way you
that are
have,
time sensitive.
yeah, most of the council there.
That would work. Right?
So we will, so that gives you all more time as well.
Right.
Yeah.
5:30.
5:30?
Something like that.
Right, we can forestall the topic of budget till Sarah and other folks who need to transition from work to other work are here, back in the room.
So 5:30.
5:30, is that?
5:30 good?
Do that.
Yeah.
And what we could do is, even if Sarah needed a few more minutes, we could just start the meeting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
It's not
yeah.
part of work.
Thank you, I
We'll do the
appreciate
regular business first.
So
and-
we'll see you at 5:35.
Sure.
Right.
Well, actually, we
With two kids.
schedule the public hearings for like later in the agenda anyway.
2 out of 3.
Right now, there are none.
Yeah, so we could do it
As
for
long as we can
6:30.
deliberately manipulate that agenda with
Yeah.
integrity, of course.
Yeah,
But I'm saying, if
Yeah.
there's something compelling, obviously, it has to be on there, or time sensitive.
yeah. So the public hearing that I suggested would be, we're looking for March 12th.
The joint piece, and
Right.
we'll start the
The meeting will
initial.
start at 5:30.
Correct.
But we can put the public hearing at like 6:15 even. Under financial matters, the public hearing could be there. So we'll figure it out. Okay.
So no March 5th, but March 12th at 5:30.
I think we have the March 5th anyway to discuss the
that's-
capital. Even if you don't have everybody from the council, if you have a majority, any council members that have questions can certainly call, and I can address any questions one-on-one. And there will be minutes from that meeting, but at least that way we can keep the budget process going. Unless you prefer not to do that.
What's the council's pleasure? You're saying March 5, you're out of,
Definitely cannot be here.
okay. And, all right, so that would be,
5:30.
So no,
well, right now, we don't know what Mr. Manley's schedule is either for the 5th, so that's 3 out of, that only leaves a majority, one more, and we wouldn't be able to meet anyway.
so then the idea of having budget workshops has changed from when the council wanted it before.
Well, we can do it in
Good
between
point.
the next
You're going to
one.
be crunching.
We can,
No.
I mean, essentially, we're going to do 3 Tuesdays in a row. We're going to do the 12th, 19th, and 26th.
The 26th that
Is a
is when I
regular
would be
meeting.
presenting the
Right.
budget. So to give one workshop in between is,
Well, if you guys can do it on the 4th, I can be available.
At least that's one more of you. 'Cause I can't.
yeah.
So at least you'll have,
I don't mind Monday.
I'll be available at whatever you
Will
decide.
the school committee be?
Oh, so wait, so
No,
we,
the school committee's going to be March 12th irregardless.
so we have to
Right.
post by Thursday. We're going
Right,
to do it Monday.
right.
I mean, I can do it Monday. I'm available all night.
I'm good. And even if Mr. Manley's not able to be there, there'll
there'll be
be
at least 5 of you.
5 of us.
Five.
That's fine.
So March
March
4th would
4th.
be
Do we have a room
council
available?
meeting at 5:30? Is that what you're saying?
It's up to you, guys.
5.
How early can you be there?
Fine. Probably not much before that.
Go 5 then.
5?
I'll make it work.
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry.
No, that's,
It's okay.
what she has decided is, which is certainly fair, is she can leave early.
Right.
And, because she's coming back to work anyway.
I'm coming right back to work, so.
And I just stay because I have no life. So-
Yeah, but my son should be able to get to my house by
That's
then,
fine.
so it should be okay.
So, a budget workshop,
Will be March 4th.
March 4th at
5:30.
And
At 5.
at
5.
5 o'clock.
And where are we doing this?
I'll have to look to make sure, maybe the library.
Okay.
So I will.
Well, we'll leave that to you
Yeah.
and Tom.
Yeah.
And just let us know, and then in the posting, it'll state it anyway.
And it will be discussion of the capital projects. Okay? I guess.
That took a long time.
So one meeting at a time, I guess.
Wow, that took up more time than $43,473 for 3 months.
It was more difficult. And in the meantime, if you have any questions that you'd like us to address at that meeting, please, if you would put them in email, that would be great. And through the chair?
Yes. Okay, moving on then to 8C, old business. The number 1 is the Stormwater Enterprise Fund bylaw. Mr. Fenny?
Yes, I'm back here again.
Back here.
In front of you all. I met with the bylaw subcommittee on, I believe, February 1st, and got a recommendation from them. So I'm looking to see if the council will vote to approve the Stormwater Enterprise Fund bylaw.
And if you'd like a little overview.
Please.
We had met a few times. Mr. Penny put together the enterprise fund for us. And I have to say, through the dedicated work of Councilor O'Connor and Pat Henry, because I had missed a meeting due to a funeral, they got him to tweak some of the things in this enterprise fund to make it more user-friendly. And one thing that was suggested, which I believe we took into effect, was originally it had the price, the costs of the enterprise funds for each residence, and we decided to take that out of the body of the fund itself and put it as an addendum. Therefore, in the future, if we decide to change it, it doesn't have to come back to the bylaw committee. You can just change the figures without changing the bylaw. So once again, I'd like to thank, my committee did a great job. And based on that and what we determined at the last meeting, I would like to propose that the town council accept the Stormwater Enterprise Fund as written here. I guess that I'm making a motion, not proposing. So.
Do you want to read it? Because Kevin's not here. Or I can read it.
This or the motion? Oh, sure, I'd be happy to. All I have to do is find it.
Paul, before we proceed through the chair, of course.
Yeah.
I've been approached and had a chance to look at the moving pieces of this. And something that was brought to my attention is that we may be putting the cart before the horse. According to the charter, which was brought to my attention, is that the town manager needs to present to the council the creation and org change for a stormwater division within the DPW be created and be approved by the town council. So we're creating an enterprise fund for a division which doesn't exist, potentially.
We had this
So
discussion.
my point is, can we?
You have the section?
Yeah.
Is it?
It's not a new department?
No, it was whenever you create a new division within the department.
Can you?
But we're not creating a new division.
Yeah, it's the stormwater division.
We've always had it?
No.
Oh, a stormwater division.
Right. We have a water division,
Water
a
and
sewer
sewer.
division, highway, and now we're going to have a stormwater division. So
Is it a division?
it might be a question for council, the counselor.
It's actually, in the past, it was under the highway division.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily need to be a separate, I guess, division, if that's what needs to be done. It could be put under the highway and drawn from certain accounts under the highway division. I don't know how Sarah feels as the chief financial officer.
So the motion that we were discussing is for the town to adopt the enterprise fund under Chapter 44, Section 53F and a half, which would be allowing us to separate the stormwater to have the revenue and the related expenses offset each other. Currently, the stormwater has been being paid through highway for many years. We have even had in the past, there were warrant articles relating to stormwater and whatnot, so it's not something new to the town, but in order to have it in an enterprise fund, which is what we are asking for you to vote on tonight, is, yes, separating it out. You wouldn't have, that's how you would do it.
And this is an eventual mandate of the state?
It's a mandate of the state to do all of the stormwater work, yes. And this is one of the approved vehicles in order to do so.
So is it necessary to create a whole nother division, just to create an enterprise fund?
Well, it's just creating the fund. I mean,
Right.
it's
Well, I know we're voting on creating the fund, I'm saying, you know, and I have to go back and refer to that. I have no idea what that actually says, but, you know, do we have to create a separate division to create this fund?
So, can I ask the question first? Can you tell us what section of the charter that is? Because we talked about this.
Yeah.
The one I'm looking at, is it on page 14? Is that what you're referencing?
It's on page 13, it's organization of town agencies. And it follows the bylaws in the town, which state that we have a water division, we have a sewer division, we have a highway, and now we're creating the stormwater, which is not in the bylaws yet.
So the section you're talking about is the town manager may from time to time prepare and submit to the town council organization or reorganizational plans to establish operating divisions for the orderly, efficient, or convenient conduct of business of the town. Is that what you're talking about?
That's what was referenced. And
But I
the
think
fact
it
that
goes
the
for-
bylaw,
I was going to ask if we could get pearls of wisdom from our
yes,
our barrister.
Mr. Mayor.
our town
The use of the
attorney.
term may usually denotes the exercise of discretion on the part of the town.
Okay, we want
manager.
something, okay? So I'm just joking.
You know, it clearly is not mandatory, probably advisable, but not mandatory, that the town manager update the council from time to time as to the existence of any particular division within the department. Respectfully, I'm not sure I agree that a vote of the town council is necessary to form a division within the department.
in the accounting terms, I can still have it under the highway division. It's just a different fund number in front. I don't have to give it a different division number, and so therefore it could still be highway division. It's just the aspect of the stormwater fund, therefore not creating a new division. It's just separating out that part of the expense.
I mean, I think the council's already voted to create that enterprise fund.
I believe the formal vote never happened, and that's what tonight is for.
Council, so.
Again, the cart before the horse scenario. A bylaw hearing has to be held to create the bylaw, which and basically creates the fund. So, and then the stormwater division is not created. So there's three moving parts, and that's what I was trying to get to, is that which one comes first?
So-
And that's, maybe that's a question for the town attorney again.
Well, he just said we don't necessarily have to form another committee. Or
No,
form
but it's a
another-
bylaw change too.
Tonight, though, the first part of the, you know, in your scenario about all the pieces that have to happen, first, the town council has to make a motion for the town to adopt the enterprise fund. Once that happens, then a
we
bylaw
create a
gets
bylaw.
created. So yes, you cannot approve a bylaw tonight, the hearings haven't happened. Tonight's
Right.
purpose is for the town council to formally say that the town wishes to adopt that section of the law for stormwater. So, and then, yes, then you would go
Then we have to
forward
do
doing
the
the bylaw
Right.
and doing all of those
But the
aspects.
bylaw goes through 2 public hearings.
Yes.
And if the townsfolk speak up and say they don't want it, and the bylaw doesn't pass,
So what we're doing
what do we do? We're creating an enterprise fund.
We're adopting the
the-
state
yeah.
law, I mean, the Mass General Law, to allow us to move forward, to have these hearings, to see what the public wants, is the way I'm reading it. Basically, right, we're just saying, basically, this is almost quasi-enabling. It allows us to be able to have the public hearings, to see and have public comment on this enterprise fund, correct? Without us adopting it, we can't move forward with even having the public hearings on the enterprise fund.
Right,
That's kind of how I'm
Yeah,
reading
you
it.
can't
Okay.
have a bylaw if you haven't
And
adopted
we wouldn't be
section.
funding that fund before July 1st anyway.
Correct.
So we still have time to do all the other pieces.
Right, if we have it in place.
And would then, don't you just vacate the, we would take action to vacate the fund, I guess.
Yeah,
If the public hearing,
You would decide not to fund the fund.
yes.
So it'd be an unfunded fund.
Correct.
So we got the steps right?
Does everybody get that? There's going to be a test.
So,
No, there was 3 parts.
there's a motion on the floor
To adopt
Enterprise fund.
establish the provisions
To establish an enterprise
allow us to be able to create an enterprise, the bylaws for the enterprise fund.
Right.
Yeah. And then we still have to do it. It's not a done deal by just doing this. Now
Right.
the bylaw gets created, and the double reading, and the public hearings, and the adoption.
Okay.
Or not.
Yes.
So, did you want me to read this?
Sure.
I move that the town establish pursuant to the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53F and a half, a stormwater enterprise fund to commence on July 1st, 2019, to be operated under the Department of Public Works.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Those opposed, please say no.
No.
Any abstentions? So the motion carries 5-1-0.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Continuing under old business C2, the council decision regarding the citizen petition. By way of review, the council received a citizen's petition back in December, and pursuant to the language and the guidelines in the charter, a public hearing was held on January 22nd. And after the hearing, the council opted as one of its 3 choices to take it under advisement. And now, having done that, the council is required by the charter to make a final determination. So that said, as council chair, I move that after consideration of the citizens' petition dated December 11, 2018, and the public hearing conducted on January 22, 2019, the town council deny the request set forth in that position.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there discussion?
I'd just like to say something,
Surely.
because I know when we had that meeting, I was one of the vocal people about the signatures, so just to sort of defend myself, because I know it was presented that the signatures weren't accurate, and I never said, at least in my comments, that the people signing the petition were not taxpayers. My contention was, because one of my friends was one of the signers, is that he, and this is his fault, granted, but he did not know what he was signing. He did not know the gravity of it, and he just thought he was signing a basic petition regarding changes in town government. He did not know what it was exactly about. And also, I happen to notice, I know the gentleman, Mr. Mazzarino, said he could have gotten more signatures, but we had the signatures that we had that night, and I did notice a duplication in signatures. So, with that information in front of me, if he had presented 300 signatures, that would have been better, because it would have been a moot point. But I just wanted to, in effect, defend myself from what he was saying, defending himself. So.
Just also to tag on that, my recollection after speaking with our clerk was that 111 signatures were submitted. Two of the signatures were redundant, so they were removed, and then the other 9 were deemed invalid, either because they weren't registered voters or the signature was illegible. Hello.
Live at that address, but we double and triple checked,
Right.
and there was a valid.
And after a discussion with our town council, we had determined should the final count was exactly 100, but should it have fallen below, the council was prepared to go forward with the hearing anyway in the interest of transparency.
I just have a quick comment. I said it last time and I'll say it again today. And just because you have the means to do something doesn't necessarily mean it's the best course of action. So although you have a right to create a petition, in effect, it did not serve its purpose. And I don't know what kind of business all the people are that signed it. But in essence, at that point, you're saying that we should not rehire somebody or give them a raise that has 14 months remaining on their contract. So it would be horribly ill-advised for us to adopt anything like that, knowing that person's still going to be in a position, but then knowing that we've then decided at that moment that no renewal of contract will happen 14 months into the future. Excuse me. So having done that, if they perform admirably during that time, then we still would have voted at, right now, not to renew the contract. That's extraordinarily irresponsible.
Good point.
And I just don't think it was the right venue. There's other ways to work out differences with people, to find some middle ground, to collaborate with them and find a better way to improve processes. So when townspeople have issues, to essentially attack somebody in that manner is not the best venue as far as I'm concerned.
Excuse me, other discussion? Hearing none, then all those in favor of denying the request set forth in that petition, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Those opposed, please say no.
No.
And there are no abstentions. The motion is defeated 5-1-0. Moving on to the next item under old business, the town manager compensation and 2019 goals. Again, the charter compels the council to do an annual evaluation of the manager's performance. That was conducted in November of 2018. And it was reported out at the December, we only had one meeting in December 9th, but 11th? Committee, December 11th meeting of the council. The subcommittee made its report, and the composite rate rankings or ratings were still in the average range, though there was a dip in the aggregate ratings. They still met the standard of performs at an average. I'm not making it up, but I'm not speaking verbatim, but the rating was average, and the composite scores were at the average level. So the next step...
Point of quick clarification,
sure.
They were all above average?
I disagree.
Well, average would have been 2.5.
No, average would have been 3, according to our
so
standards.
They're all above 3.
It's 3.3, which is rounded down to average.
Too.
It's not 4, it's not
Tom,
above average.
If you said there's 3 and they're all above 3, then they're above average. That was the statement.
Using the ranking of, we had a ranking of 5 down to 1. I'm a teacher, I should know this. The word isn't coming. The 3 represented, the language attached to a score of 3 met the criteria at an average level. So the composite ranking was 3.38, if I'm recollecting correctly. So that means the performance was still in the average range. So subsequent to the evaluation is the council's obligation to set goals, annual goals, and have the discussion of compensation. So that said, the committee, the town manager evaluation subcommittee had put together all of the goals, and there were 21 at one point because all 7 of us offered input on that, and the charge to the committee was to distill those 21 or 21 comments to 5 or 6 manageable goals. And that has been done. So would someone from the committee like to read, for the benefit of the audience, the 5 or 6, I believe there's 6 there, goals that the council will adopt tonight as annual goals going forward through the end of the manager's contract in December of the term, the manager's contract term. Someone from the committee want to read those, please?
I'm not on the committee, but I'll read.
I don't have the, I have the list before we reduce it down, so that would be helpful.
I don't mind reading it down.
Okay.
The proposed 6 goals that came out of the committee reduced the 22 that were submitted down to the following 6. Number 1, manage the budget process to ensure council direction and votes are carried out and adhered to by the town manager's office and all departments, committees, and boards. Number 2, work with town council in a much more collaborative way. Examples: follow through on direction given by the town council in a timely manner. If this is not possible, inform the council immediately. B, manage the budget process, enterprise and revolving funds, to ensure council direction and votes are carried out and adhered to by the town manager and all departments, committees, and boards. C, communicate to all council members on all issues and news releases affecting our town and residents, in addition to top or middle management level personnel changes before they occur. Number 3, issue an RFP for town attorney prior to next fiscal year. Recruit a candidate with demonstrated municipal background and competitive fee schedule. Number 4, return clerk's office and finance operations to original locations. Comment: currently the setup is not customer friendly. Number 5, take care in hiring key staff. Surround yourself with people that want to be here and care about our community. Number 6, begin to develop and implement a succession plan for department heads. This plan will ensure that there is a smooth transition in the event employees leave their positions, either through promotion, resignation, or retirement. That's it.
That said,
Number 4 is not what we discussed that night. It was to talk about the workflow of the town hall, but not specifically to return one department back to an original state. That wasn't anything I agreed on.
so then I will turn to Mr. Ford, Mr. O'Connor, and Mr. Kane. You were that subcommittee.
I recall it the way it's written.
I'm really trying to think what we discussed, and we discussed that we didn't feel that it was working in the fashion that it is set up right now. But I don't remember if we said specific locations had to be returned. We did talk about an adjustment.
Yeah, this is mentioning a specific department.
Which doesn't follow the charter.
Right. Well, this has
And
been
that's
out there
not-
since 12/29, so I would have commented before that since you're on the committee.
Well, Tom, she doesn't have to ask our permission to move things, and that's not what the charter says. You were on the charter committee, not me.
And you were on this committee as
All right,
well as I.
gentlemen.
That's right. That's not what we agreed on.
It's
So-
what I thought we agreed on. I wrote it down, you reviewed it.
I think it's irresponsible to give her a goal like that. That's not in the purview of the council to do. It's an irresponsible goal.
My personal opinion is that I don't think it is in concert with the language in the charter in terms of the town manager's powers or responsibilities. However, if and the council individually in conversations has noted to the manager a concern about what did you use, workflow or customer, I don't want to say customer friendly. And so consideration is being given there to optimal ways to make the flow of departments at Town Hall?
Some of it was based off the workshop or the classes that people went to, that certain departments shouldn't be located in the same proximity. And there was other conversations regarding, with the clerk being moved down the other end of the building, that we might be inclined to have to spend $30,000 purchasing vaults instead of moving vaults. So I think what we're all looking for is what's best for the town and what's best for the residents. And I would hope that everybody working in the town hall, the clerk, Denise, that we've had time to try these moves and decide, is it working? You know, I would ask you, is it working? Do you see modifications that you want to make rather than it being a directive?
I do. And I think it certainly is within the council's purview to say that there are some issues with some departments, the way they're set up, and for me to look at ways of altering, improving, or whatever. That is within your purview to say, look, the citizens are saying this isn't working. And if I don't respond to that, then certainly you have reason to have an issue with that. I have been working on it and have continued to have some other ideas. So it's not something that would go unaddressed, but certainly the way it's presented in here probably isn't the most practical.
So in essence, we are addressing the issue on the list right now. Regarding how it's written, we all see that there's flexibility and we have to make modifications to make the building user-friendly.
I think returning offices to certain space is probably not the best way to write it. That's not a directive that should be coming my way, but rather address space needs that have been, I don't know, pointed to me as being customer unfriendly.
If I may, through the chair.
Yes.
The committee was directed to reduce the town manager's performance goals down from 20 to 5 or 6. These are not new, these are not made up, these came from council members, word for word. Below are the suggested 6 proposed goals. We're voting on those tonight. If you don't like them, change them.
Mr. Maynard, I'm just going to put you on the spot a minute. I recollect you and I had an email conversation about how to distill and or edit the verbiage in any of the counselors' goals that were put forth. And your recommendation was you can change the wording if it improves the syntax and the intent of the author's position, but we can't make up wording that didn't already exist. Am I saying that correctly?
I think that's close to what I said.
Okay.
I thought it appropriate for you as chair or the subcommittee to synthesize these 20 or 21 goals down to a more manageable number. And in order to do that, some language changes had to be made, but that you or the subcommittee should not change the meaning of these goals.
Mm-hmm.
So there seems to be, from my perspective and what I'm hearing, there simply seems to be some disagreement over what the meaning of the goals initially proposed was, and whether the condensation down to 6 goals, that this particular goal in particular has somehow changed the meaning of what the council intended.
So through the chair, do we have to go back and if we want to change that, or can we change it right now and vote on it? Or
Yeah, I think Mr. O'Connor is right. There was a proposal put forward by the subcommittee, and if there's a desire to change the language of one of those proposed goals, that can be done here by motion, and then adopt the entirety with that change.
Okay, so then what is the pleasure of council? Is it to modify the wording of that goal to more specifically, to be more global in terms of reviewing
Workplace,
work, yes.
I got one word in there. Workplace flow and ease for our
Right.
townspeople.
Location
yeah.
of specific departments in town hall. Is that reasonable? I'm looking at the, you.
I would like to see the three of us agree on language, seeing that we put it together.
We didn't choose the language, though. The language was presented by counselors to us. as is.
But that doesn't mean we
But
can't change it.
Mr. Maynard is
No, we
saying
can
that we
change it.
can do that here now. We absolutely agree that the committee was following the recommendation from town council.
Right.
That either leave it, if it's written properly, leave it as is and submit it. But it appears that there's more of a appetite to broaden the language to have the manager review work flow, pick the right words. I'm not married to any one of them, in town hall, and departmental operation as it relates to public. Now we're really getting carried away. We sound like a TV, made for TV reality.
I also think it would be appropriate, particularly given in the interest of time, to have the board consider a motion to accept 5 of those goals, with the understanding that it would revisit the 6th.
I like what he said.
That's why he gets the big bucks.
That makes sense right now, in the interest of time, and then the committee can work on wordsmithing that.
I'm comfortable with that. Are you?
Yeah.
Joe?
Yeah.
Okay, then this motion is mine as well. I move that the council approve the town manager's 2019 goals, numbers 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6, as set forth by the Manager Performance Evaluation Committee, with the understanding that goal number 4, as currently written, will be modified for wording and language and brought back to the council at a later date.
So moved.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Those opposed, please say no. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, also in this item is a discussion on town manager compensation. I would like to lead the discussion as chair by saying that we've had global references tonight to our budget and the need to have workshops to get at the meat and potatoes of all of the capital recommendations, as well as the general budget in concert with the school committee's needs and recommendations. And right now, there are a lot of pieces that are still up in the air, tag teaming some of the senator's remarks about state budget numbers are not readily available. They're just starting to coalesce. We, as a council, gave the manager some parameters to give out to the department heads that going forward to be as fiscally responsible and conservative as possible, that department heads were instructed to present 0% budgets with the exception of any obligations that needed to be met for contract obligations. And that said, I think it's imprudent of the council at this time to, and I'm speaking personally, set a compensation for the manager, because we don't know what the final numbers we're playing with, if you will. In addition to the fact that through no fault of the managers, we fell out of cycle in an annual evaluation and had to realign ourselves, which caused us to do an evaluation of the manager in May of 2018. And in July, we awarded retroactive a 3% raise, which, considering the parameters of last year's budget, was certainly the performance notwithstanding, a compensation was merited. But it did exceed the highest raise that anybody else, employees in town, received. So I would advocate for a 0% increase at this time, and there's no caveat that says because the performance was different or there was a petition or whatever you want to script out. I think in the interest of fiscal prudency right now, I would be comfortable with a 0%, but in no way reflective on performance. I'll entertain other discussion.
I just want to say, when this came up last time, granted there were 2 of us, but we didn't have a full board. And I know it may be difficult to get, but I don't think this topic is important enough. I think this topic is important enough to have a full board before we do anything. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with Paul. I think we should probably, if we can, table it until we get a full board. And then, but your points are well noted. I mean, well taken because of fiscal, keeping a fiscal responsibility as well. And we'll just, but she deserves, the position deserves, we deserve, the public deserves to have the full board so we can all talk about it.
To the chair, I would agree to have a full board present as well. And there are a couple of topics that would be on my mind, and the evaluation is one piece of it. The 3% that was given last time would come into the equation with myself. And the 0% budget, I kind of feel like we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. And whatever we do, if we do something, it's retroactive anyway, right? So
it would always be retroactive to meet the obligation of the contract dates, which are December 16 through December 16 of this year.
And the last piece of it is a value on the residency being relieved of the obligation. And when I say obligation, it was talked about during the hiring phase. It was talked about during our contract. It was basically, if I asked the opinion of the people that worked on the charter, it was an important component of the charter to have the town manager reside in town. But we as a group, we leave that obligation, and nobody in their right mind would expect anyone to move here with only 1 year left on the contract. But I still feel it has some value, and it's very difficult to put together a package without, in my opinion, putting a value on that residency requirement, being able to lift that during the duration of the contract.
There's a suggestion on the floor for tabling this until all 7 of us are present. If there's a sentiment for that, then someone simply needs to put that into motion.
I'd like to propose a motion to table the compensation aspect of the town manager's contract until we have a full board, whenever that may be.
I'll second that motion.
The motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Please say yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I messed you up.
Yes.
Please say yes.
Yes. The pirate in me came out.
So we have to pick a specific date, so it'll be our next meeting unless we don't have a full council. Not the Monday meeting, but
No.
the next,
With
the 12th.
with
Yeah, it's
the
gotta be the regular
12th of March,
Provided there's a full council.
provided there's a full council.
Okay.
The motion carries unanimously. Under new business for all of you patient folks in the audience, D1, authorization of the superintendent of schools to submit a statement of interest form to the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Mr. Smith and Mr. Thompson.
Good evening.
Hello again.
Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to address all of you.
You're welcome.
And if you'll permit me for the record, if I could just introduce the team briefly. As you mentioned, Superintendent Gordon Smith, Greg Thompson, the Vice Chair of the committee. With us, Bill Fonseca, Sarah Trulio, Beth Marzine Boucher, and Pamela Blair, our Assistant Superintendent for Business. And as you're noticing, our chairman is not here this evening. He had a prior engagement, so he would certainly be here otherwise. So again, thank you for having us
Which
this
is
evening.
highly unusual because he has probably the closest to a 100% attendance rate on any committee or event that I've been present with him.
I think
back
snow day.
25, 30 years.
And it's a moderate.
And he comes to school on snow days too, in a shirt and tie.
It's an understatement to say that he was on the fence still to come, and he had a great
Yes.
opportunity to be somewhere else this
Yes.
evening. So yes,
That's
certainly important. As you know, we're here for permission from the council for our now 6th application for the Massachusetts School Building Authority. First started in 2014. The school committee has agreed to reapply to the MSBA. We did that on the 11th of this month. And so now we're here for your permission to do so as well.
So the motion, I think all of you have it in your packets. The one update that we would need to make is that it's now February 26th instead of February 12th. Basically, the motion is very similar to ones you've seen in the past. It recognizes the 3 priorities that we would put into our statement of interest, and other than allowing me to move forward in revising the new statement of interest, it does not obligate the town at this point to any other commitment. And as you read the language, which you've seen before, it certainly does not obligate the Massachusetts School Building Authority to any commitment. It just opens up the opportunity to continue the discussion.
Correct. Do you have specific wording we have to undertake?
Yes,
or just
Do they have it in the packet?
Yeah. Either one could
Yeah.
read.
Yes.
All right, so it'd be, Paul, you're doing that one?
I am?
But you have specific wording.
Oh, okay.
Not that one, though. We have to read.
So it's the one that,
You've got to read the one from Gordon.
Paul, you have to change that first date.
change the date.
It does say February 26th. We got an update.
Yeah, we had an
Okay.
update.
On top of things.
There you go.
We don't give you guys the newest stuff.
I appreciate it.
All right. Are we set?
Yes.
I move, having convened in an open meeting on Tuesday, February 26, 2019, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the Town Council of the Town of East Long Meadow, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the Statement of Interest form dated on April 12, 2019 for East Long Meadow High School located at 180 Maple Street, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. Priority 3, loss of accreditation. Priority 5, replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in a school facility. Priority 7, replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements. And hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting the Statement of Interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the town of East Long Meadow to filling an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Second?
The motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed, please say no. Motion carries unanimously. Good luck with it. It's encouraging to hear Senator
Yes,
Lesser say
definitely.
that he has been able to exert some influence on Ms. Goldberg, the treasurer, and any other efforts obviously are helpful, as well as the fact that it appears there's an appetite on Beacon Hill to start looking at the education piece of the state's budget and look at this as a compelling issue across the state.
Actually, the
And
governor's
with a
budget
very
looks
small
quite
pot of
favorable.
gold to work from.
Right.
And the council president alluded to it, but just to acknowledge the folks that are here tonight supporting this,
Correct.
parents,
Yes.
others, citizens. There certainly is a groundswell, it feels like now, of interest in the project, more so than ever. So we're hopeful, and
We got to send that east.
keep plugging away. Yeah, right. Well, they're noticing too, and that's why Senator Lesser is certainly highly involved and getting members of MSBA directly out here to see exactly what we're talking about is going to help a lot. So we're getting there.
Good.
I found it very helpful, and I'm sure Kathy did as well, the time that you guys spent with us and the tour of the facility.
Sure.
It's,
and we offer that
spoke for
to
itself.
anyone who is not able to make it. Certainly we can do that for anyone who's interested.
And just to put it out there in the synopsis, really, we're getting to that process. I know we talk about capital investments on the building, how we're holding off on them, but it seems like it's a timely process. It's 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. If you don't meet the other requirements, which would be condemning of the building, which we're not going to meet that requirement, and overcrowding, we're not going to meet that also. So without those two things, it's just waiting of the time. Senator Lesser alluded to that. So we're doing our due diligence. We're rewording some of the ISO, the statement of interest. Superintendent Smith's been on top of that, so we're doing what we can.
And is this year 6?
This is year 6.
This is the 6th application now. Yep. Okay.
Thank you for your support.
You're welcome. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along to number D2, the District Local Technical Assistance Update on the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission and the Board of Health. And with us this evening, I think we see our Health Director, as well as the Chair of the Board of Health, Dr. Sarah McAdoo Perez. Or is it Perez McAdoo?
I think it's something.
Kathy, just go with it.
She's lovely. I've never given her number of times.
Clear it out. Looks so empty back there now.
So I'll start. Thank you for having us here tonight to talk to you about this opportunity that we have. We've been here before to talk about this once before, so this is just kind of to update you on where we're at. Last February, we received a grant from the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, which was the District Local Technical Assistance Grant, and that allowed us the opportunity to look at possibility of some shared health services between us and Longmeadow.
So I just wanted to begin by sort of giving some context about what we're going to share with you today and why we proceeded with this. And we're going to share with you some of the information that we gathered, as well as the process and the progress. I know you have a copy of the report. So today we would love to also hear some of your feedback that you have, and we want to collect your input and suggestions prior to moving to some next steps, and also to be able to answer any questions that you may have. Some of the context to why we pursued this is because the Governor's Office has a statewide public health commission that is looking into the standards of local health departments. So the expectation, from what we understand, that has been communicated from the Massachusetts Department of Public Health is that the standards are being formed to move towards regionalization to meet the 10 essential public health services. And this you will find listed on page 19 of the report. And this is from the CDC. And included in there, you will notice a framework that's used. And our public health department uses it in terms of assessment of any health issues, being able to then, based on that assessment, to identify the intervention, and then, which is usually, it could be related to a public health policy, and then assurance that this work will make a difference. So that's a framework that we've been utilizing in our health department. So because of this particular push that's expected, departments that cannot meet these standards on their own will be required to regionalize. We want to be on the forefront of this movement and to be able to take advantage, actually, of the expected available funds to support us during this process, instead of us having to do this completely on our own. And these funds are available for those that are early adopters. Also, at this time, there's interest from Longmeadow due to their the retirement of their health director that's been there for a long while. So sort of some of these issues create a perfect opportunity to really be able to explore this. So the way that we proceeded with this grant, we've been holding monthly stakeholder meetings since March of 2018. And participants at that meeting included various members of the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, both town managers, both department heads, and a director of local public health initiatives from the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. During these meetings, we laid out each community's goals and objectives and brainstormed ways to meet these particular goals. We pay special attention to the requirements and recommendations from the state level, and what's going to be coming down, so that we can look at the options that we have to, to meet those standards. And I want to pass it over to Amy to kind of describe to you sort of what we found and summarize some of those findings.
Great. So in November, the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission and DPH came and did a joint presentation to the boards of health and the town managers, and Tom was able to make it to that as well. What they did is they presented that document that was provided to you that kind of just went through the process. And at that meeting, both boards of health decided that it was a goal worth looking further at. At this time, both boards have voted, and both town managers have also expressed their support. So some of the benefits that I see, so that's really what it gets down to right at the end of the day, is what will this do for East Long Meadow, and why is this something that we're pursuing? And I think one of the things to think about before we even get into that is each town will retain sole decision-making authority. So I think that's really important right off the bat, is our Board of Health will remain an independent authority. They will still make all the decisions for only East Long Meadow, and the policies and regulations that they put forth will only be for our residents. Long Meadow would have the same on their end. I think for us it allows for efficiency. Right now, Long Meadow and East Long Meadow are both sending the directors to the same meetings, the same trainings, the same, we're sending us to and from Boston, we're paying mileage for that. So I think efficiency around some of those services that we're both doing the same exact thing for. I think also staff backup, right? So if Donna or I were to be sick or go out of town, we would have someone to back us up in that situation. For them, they have one person on their team, so us be able to back up their person in the event of illness or an emergency like today. They would have no one in town in order to be able to step in for them. So it offers some efficiency there. It also offers expanded services. So there is, as you've seen, there is no expected cost to this, right? So that's the other big thing, I'm sure you guys, that's the money up there, knowing that this is not going to be something that we're coming back looking for more money from you guys for. This is to also expand services. So right now, one of the things that we'll benefit most greatly from is we don't have a public health nurse. We don't have the need for a full-time public health nurse. But we do have $10,000 in my budget reserved for public health nursing. We are required to do epidemiology of communicable diseases reporting to the state as they come in. They come into us. We're required to make contact and to follow up with the state if there's any concern for our residents. The other thing that we have is any active TB cases, which we have had multiple in the last couple of years. They require extensive services. We've contracted out at high rates to both the Long Meadow Public Health Nurse as well as Visiting Nurses Association. These require daily visits, visits at the TB clinic, as well as correspondence with the state epidemiology labs. So this will allow us to get those services to our residents without having to pay those costly as-needed fees. Along with that comes other additional services that we'll be able to provide. Like right now we do a flu clinic and vaccination clinic once a year. This would allow us to expand that to be per visit, per appointment. And also just yesterday we got a call looking to see if we did TB screenings. And right now we don't have those services, but it is something that most public health departments across this area do have. So next steps. So on our behalf, Pioneer Valley Planning Commission will be applying for 2 grants. The second DLTA grant, which will fund the development of a potential development of an IMA. And that Denise just got notified last week that we were awarded. And they have also submitted an efficiency and regionalization grant, and that would look to fund the potential transition of this with staffing, as also to do a health needs assessment of our community to see what are the issues that our residents have, what might be able to help with. So you kind of get that baseline before you make any kind of move like this. You want to get that baseline of our residents.
Yeah, and it's also an important piece in this particular grant because it allows us for accountability. It'll allow us to see whether any of the strategies that are being implemented, is it having the kind of impact that we want to have for our community. So having that baseline is critical, and that is actually really hard to get funding to do that, and this will be included in this particular opportunity.
And no, that's good. And just even if we move forward with that, it does not obligate us to continue with the process, right? So this is still all very exploratory. Okay, so that's kind of our update to you, and so if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them.
I think you did a good job
I think
explaining
that's very
it.
I was gonna say, yeah.
The report's very comprehensive, that was good.
Excellent.
It sounds as though it's a win-win.
Yeah, that's how it appears right now, and that's what
to feel, yeah.
Yeah, and really to reiterate that the moving forward with it is purely exploratory, right? If at any point the three of us are at the table, usually, if at any point it seems like East Long Meadow isn't getting the things that we expected to get as a result of this, or it seems like we're not moving in the right direction. I mean, you guys have been fantastic. This health department has, with your help, really been something that it has never been in the past for East Long Meadow, and that for us is just really exciting. And so if we're at a table where it looks like we're going to go backwards from that, that is absolutely the last thing that Sarah or I could ever get behind. So we can assure you that if we're here saying that, you know, this is something we can get behind, that we have that in our hearts and our mind.
And another piece that we made sure that we included is in conversations moving forward, in terms of really thinking about working together to make sure that we are fulfilling the obligations that we agreed to, and sort of tracking our work. So if something's not working, how do we address that earlier? And making sure we have the ability to say, are we still focused on the goals that we agree and not going off track? So that way we can reach those goals. So it's within our process in and of itself of doing this grant. Those checkpoints are included in there to make sure that we are fulfilling the obligations that we might have stated.
Right, with no obligation.
Huh?
With no obligation.
There's no current obligation.
Yes. Correct.
In terms of, just in terms of how to check in to make sure that we're doing what we said we're going to do. And we have a responsibility to do this for our town and do it well. So that's included in there. So it's not that as we move forward, this is something that's just going to go without being checked at certain points. That's something that we make sure that we include as part of the process.
Thank you.
I have one comment, or actually one question, and it's probably just a comment. It sounds like you've addressed the issue of risk assessment or liability, so that if we're doing some work in Long Meadow and there's and for some reason they don't like the work, they're making the decision to go ahead and do that, not us.
Correct.
We're recommending,
Correct.
which is great.
Yep.
And that's what I think I heard.
Yeah, so the way we function, so if I were to write an order to correct, or it goes to a hearing, or someone challenges my order, they would come to our Board of Health, and our Board of Health, as the authority that's given to them by Mass General Law, I'm an agent of the board, so they would have that authority. If an order is placed at Long Meadow, they go to the Long Meadow Board of Health.
Good.
Both would still be preserved.
So we don't own that risk. Good. Yeah, that's what I thought I understood, but I just want to make sure.
Okay.
Good job.
Thank you very much for your time and your work.
Thank you, guys.
Under new business, item D3, correspondence received from Fitzgerald Attorneys at Law regarding right of first refusal for new parcel F, as shown on plan of land recorded at Hampden County Registry of Deeds, Plan Book 385, page 36. You have that in your packet, and...
I have a question for you.
Yes.
So the planning board and the
Assessor's office and all of the other, they have all signed off. Yes, we're the last one for the, and for all the obvious reasons.
And we're not just handing this to somebody, it's going to be a bid process. If we refuse, then someone else has the obligation.
No, it's already one person who wants to buy it.
Oh, okay.
We're just...
It's already under purchase.
The way it works is to save money on taxes, if you say to either agricultural or forestry or whatever, you have you petition that the town assesses the property under the statute.
Right.
However, it used to be, it was very clear when we had a board of selectmen that if you decide to take a portion out of it, you have to pay the back taxes as if it was not under that classification. And the Board of Selectmen had the right to say, wait a minute, I think we want to buy this property. We could really use that and use, town funds to buy the property. What they're asking us, since there's not a clear chain of command with the Board of Selectmen, they're running to everybody and their brother to say, no, we are okay with you paying the back taxes on this building lot and moving forward as a building lot, we are waiving our right of first refusal.
We don't want to buy it.
Yeah, and you've been involved in those discussions, yeah, okay.
And for those of us who aren't that bright, they're paying the back taxes because they were assessed as a farm.
Right.
Which meant they
paid a lot less money.
Yeah.
And so when they take it out, you can't double dip. You said you got now all the back taxes as if this were not a farm.
All the way back to
that point
right.
of the classification. You pay that, and in addition, we're going to give up our, not that there's any connection to it, we're giving up our right to purchase the lot. We go ahead and build it as a building.
And what's right for the town is to get it on the tax rolls.
Right.
Yeah.
So they can.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because we don't want to start it, we don't want to have a blueberry farm.
No.
Maybe.
No.
One lot, bigger one.
Maybe we'll start it.
Want me to read it?
Certainly. No other discussion, then go for it.
D2, right?
That's the last
Yes.
one I have.
I vote that the town council should write a first refusal for new parcel F, Parker Street, for land purchases outlined by attorney Bradford Martin and on file in the town clerk's office.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, as you can see, a new line in our agenda called Summary Action Items for Next Meeting. So this is an opportunity to look back and decide what still needs doing for March the 12th and who is doing it or who's in charge of it.
Keeping in mind that we're trying to keep that meeting light because...
Correct.
Well, not that it would impact you guys, but I'm going to create that kind of ad hoc committee.
Yes.
I'm going to reach out. By the way, do we have, like, I'm not volunteering Chad, but...
You have contact information, yeah.
I'll start with him and see if he can rally a few people, and I'll
Right.
reach out to a few others. So I'll
And
take care
to
of that.
Donna Prather and the Rec Commission.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll include them all, and I'll CC you and Mike.
So one of the items would be Joe Ford establishing.
I have nothing for you to follow. I can, and then some point in the distant
I think
future,
they're gonna-
I'll
Do we have to
update
vote
you
on
guys.
it on the committee?
Do we even have to, should it be a subcommittee of the council? I took it more as
Just a kind of ad
group
hoc.
ad hoc committee of residents trying to brainstorm an action plan.
You just
Yeah.
have.
And you agreed to,
Help.
get involved and keep it on the forefront, but I don't see it as a subcommittee of the council.
Which means you don't have to post your meetings.
Right.
Yeah, I'll be the only council member on there.
Right,
anyhow,
so you don't
shouldn't be
have
an
to
issue.
post meetings. This
Very
is just
flexible,
a
last minute, whenever it
citizens
works.
group, right.
Yep.
The second thing we need to concern ourselves with is Mr. Rich's concern regarding the potbelly pigs and should that zoning use be looked at?
I'm glad you brought that up because under council comments, I was going to speak about that, but once we jumped from one of our public
Right.
speakers, we went into your report and I didn't want to revisit it because of coming out of order, but I would think our safety nets start with, we have our health department, we have animal control, and our building inspector.
Mr. Rich has been to say that he doesn't have an answer is
an understatement.
Probably not what we perceive. He's received an answer from every department, from the town clerk to the planning board, the planning office, the building commissioner, the assessor's office, my office. I, in fact, called the owners of the property who currently own it, even though somebody else has an option to purchase. Their lessor has an option to purchase, but they have said that they would move the pig to another area. It is by right of zoning okay.
Yeah.
Building inspection, there's no issues. Assessment-wise, everything that we've done. The way that he could change it is to maybe have petition the planning board to change the bylaw. I don't know how much more we would need. He
So
has
you're way
gotten
ahead of where I
answers.
thought we were.
Yeah, and I didn't want to
just
say
to give you a little bit
anything
of
there.
history, I mean, that was a piece of farm property.
Yeah.
And the neighborhood behind it, Autumn Ridge, didn't exist, you know, back at that point in time. Now, I don't know whether there's 6 or 8 homes back there. But I imagine he's in he's a direct abutter
He's a
to the
direct
backyard.
He's a
And he's got
direct
this
abutter.
Pin 35 feet from his window.
There's supposedly arborvitae's separating
There's a very
properties.
mature hedge.
Right.
I visited the property.
Right. And I had asked the renter, the landowner to move it to the corner, if you look at the
Yeah.
sketch of the
Yeah,
lot.
to the opposite
move it to
corner.
the corner so that there would be no neighbor that would be impacted. He said certainly he would do that.
So he's cooperative then.
The property owner is, but the property owner's also selling it to this, you know, the person that's leasing the property.
But the lessors of the property own the pets.
Yes. Yes.
Can we presume, or do we know if they'll be as cooperative?
I don't know that.
Okay.
So we do owe him
We have to-
correspondence at
right.
some point.
Right.
So, but at this point, what are we doing? You
But it
just-
should be
I
from the
mean,
council. I mean, he.
Yeah, I
he
mean,
has
refer
it to the
also-
planning
Could
board,
be
right?
from,
I'll
I
communicate
think
with
we
him,
should
but I want to
refer it
make
to
sure
planning.
what I'm communicating.
Can I
Tom's
make a
former
suggestion?
animal control
So-
guy. There's no issue with that, with 1 or 2 pigs, right? And
No, not right now, not the way the town bylaws are or state laws.
Yeah.
We're a farm-friendly community.
Right.
We have horses, we have sheep, we have goats,
So
we
as
have chickens.
Well, as a council, then can
Pigs
we
as well.
refer it to planning?
Well, before we do that, I mean, I just one suggestion that the landowner, current landowner, said that they would cooperate. Can we ask them, you know, to cooperate?
I did.
Therefore, I know, but so.
We
the
can't
plan-
force it, though.
No, but if they say
Right.
they're gonna do it, then can you ask them what the plan is to move the pen, so then we can report back to him and say,
I agree
this is
with
our best resolution. We cannot have them remove the pigs because it's not in our ability to do that right now.
And
then
there's no
the-
violation.
And then option A or B,
Marilyn.
beside that is.
2 pigs.
Is to refer him back to planning, which would then have to decide if they want to rezone the whole.
I would say refer it to planning so we don't revisit an existing situation similar to this in the future. Because
True.
right now, there is no safety net for it.
I agree.
The
that-
question is going to be if it goes to planning.
What do you want planning to do with
That may
it?
be just moving forward. The other people might be grandfathered in, you know?
True.
That's true. I mean, they've invested in
They're new.
CP. Does that apply to horses? Does that apply to other stuff? So it'd only be moving forward.
But these
coming
are
in.
new renters and new pigs.
Right.
But the
So-
pigs
Yeah,
are there,
but
but the
They
pigs are
wouldn't
there
be
before they want to
grandfathered.
change
Yeah,
it.
The farm would.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that we've done some work. It sounds like they're willing to cooperate. If they do actually
That's the
follow
approach I would
through on
take.
it, then at least we can say we've expended time and energy to try to help resolve this. He's probably not going to love the answer either way,
No.
but it's
we
better
can-
than being
Can-
32
are-
feet away from his bedroom
Can
window.
we,
Yeah, if they move it to the other corner, because like you said, because
Right, there are
I was
controls.
thinking of Tom as he was talking, because you're a former animal control.
Yeah.
So you would know that somebody reported, the only problem would be if the pig, you know, bit people or did something like that.
Or left the property.
That's a difference off the property. You know, and the other thing they can do, but I'm not their attorney, is, you know, if there is some type of nuisance action they can take with the housing court and so forth, if it's something easily manageable, but we have an owner that's willing to move it.
That's what
So
I'm saying.
that's the A plan.
The owner
But the
is
only-
not. The
No.
owner's asking his renter, and his renter is buying the property.
And who's the one that gave you the yay, I'll move it to the corner?
The owner.
And the owner?
He said,
I will
no.
absolutely ask my
He
renters to
said,
move
I
it.
will ask my renter, she's a nice lady, and I think she will do it.
And how long ago was this conversation, and when do we follow up?
Maybe about 3-4 weeks ago.
So maybe it's a follow-up time.
But it sounds like the
It's tough
renter's
to
going to
move
own the
in the
property
middle of winter.
very
It's
shortly.
No,
Correct.
just give them assurances
And we
that,
have-
right now we have
we have no
gap.
power
You might
over
be,
it.
you could be
Yeah.
up against
That
the
the
same house.
prospective buyer may or may not be
The only
willing
thing
to
you can really do
move.
about it
Possible
is
buyer
the
saying-
condition and care of the
I mean,
animals,
I just-
which
I understand.
includes
I
their
think it's an easy
stabling. And
I
that's
have
the only
big
issue
enough
that comes
comment
under
running
state
through
law
my head, but I don't really want to say it.
that I've ever dealt with.
I have this
So
big
the
enough
stabling of the
comment
animals,
running through
the
my
Board of
head.
Health has always come into play
There you go.
with regards to
watching.
potential for disease spread
Go into that who fired it.
with horses that we have in town, and the piles of manure getting too large, and that can be addressed. with the Board of Health.
So if there is, I think the health department did go out as well. Yes, I know that the health department did
So
as well.
Denise, then, can you follow up again to see if the renters have said absolutely?
They will or
We
won't?
will move it. I don't know how feasible it is in the middle of winter with some snow on the ground to relocate a pen.
Because the ground's...
I'm not...
You're not a pig expert?
I'm not a pig
My God. How could that be?
And if they won't move it, we'll tell them not to be pig-headed. and we'll-
And then, once we have that, then I can communicate, I'll communicate with Mr. Rich.
And I did call
And
Mr.
I'm
Rich
sure
back
he's-
and told
yes.
him that the renter was being asked to move the pigs. So he is aware of that. I will follow up with the landlord.
All right, so I'll get with you on that then. So what else do we have to do here?
Adjournment.
Adjourn. I'm talking about action items for next time.
That's an action item.
No executive session, right?
I second
Do
Paul.
we have any executive session? No, we do not. So.
No, but you do have some outstanding items, one being the goals, right?
The goal, so this subcommittee has to meet again, clean up that language, or give it
Yeah.
something that's reasonable for number 4.
Because we voted on the other ones.
Right, the others.
Well, there is no cleaning up of the language. It's a question of
create something that's got a...
pick a different goal. I mean, there were
pick a
several.
different goal.
Yeah, I mean, this is what was
There's another way to
agreed
do it,
yeah.
right. But your committee will meet again. And when we have a full house, we will address compensation.
Can't win. Paul's making me laugh.
And I think
Sure, I'm
that's
a
it.
class
Tom, do
clown.
we have to sign off on that right of refusal?
Yes, I
Yes.
have the document right here, so. if you
Okay,
guys-
so before we leave, we have to sign that, okay. That said,
The only other thing, and it doesn't have to be at the next meeting, is what I, is having a future conversation about allowing the town to name municipal properties. As I had a conversation with Denise this week or last week, I forget, I see her so many times. And we talked about, Denise was of the impression that the council said we can't do that.
No,
because,
The council did not want to.
did not want to do it, and
We can
they
do it.
referenced a bridge and all this kind of stuff, and I don't recall that, but it may have been come up in some other conversation, but I think it's prime time to revisit it. I still got a request from former school committee member and resident Bruce Stebbins asking about Pine Knoll, the swimming pool, what's going on. He'd like to see if there's a petition to rename that after a distinguished citizen that used to own that facility and was a swim teacher as well. And I just brought to the attention of our council president and Denise that in the town of Yarmouth, they recently, at the police station, renamed a training facility for Officer Sean Gannon, who was recently killed. And so we do know that it can be done, and I suggested again through the council president that maybe it might be prudent for our town manager to talk to their town manager / administrator, who I believe is Mr. Knappich, who used to live in Western Mass.
He's the rep from Westville.
Dan, yeah.
Dan.
And it might be a good to find out how do they do that, and if we have something in our town that we should be able to. I mean, let's say we have a great benefactor, let's say the Davis family, just for fun, says, we'll give you $20 million for a new high school. Well, we should be able to name a wing or name something after them, or do something, or so I think that it's a good thing to have in the town, and not to have the opportunity to name things after distinguished citizens or benefactors to our community, I think is something that needs to be plugged up.
So that would be...
It doesn't have to be our next meeting, that's what I'm saying.
We should put that on a future meeting.
Yeah, I was going to say, it should be an agenda meeting.
Because it's not on the agenda.
Yeah.
Sometime after
I
August.
do already have...
But it was a loose end. It was a loose, well,
So I have some ordinances,
Right, we need
bylaws
some kind of
already. I
policy.
have some examples. So I'm already prepared. If I recall correctly, when there was discussion, brief discussion about it, was that the council didn't want to get into starting to do that because it could be a slippery slope.
Well,
so
without some kind of process.
Yeah, I do have that.
I'm all for it.
No, no.
Let's
We
investigate
just,
further.
what she said, we don't want to get into it without some sort of process.
And I have that process
That was
example already.
That was the objection. It wasn't the slippery slope, it was the lack of process.
Well, I have that.
Perfect.
You know, examples
Future
already.
meeting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not the 12th.
Not the 12th.
Not the 12th.
Okay, so all of that said,
Put it on an April meeting. That way we don't forget it.
Yeah.
You know, like we're going to be, like the second April meeting, we know we're kind of out of the weeds.
Second April meeting.
Second April meeting will be right before you have to adopt, I think, the budget.
All right, first May meeting.
Yeah, but we'll be done, we'll be through all the heavy
I know.
lifting part of it, you know, so. All right, that's cool.
Okay.
That's helpful.
All that said, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded
No
to
discussion.
adjourn. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Killing me. I want to say aye. I want to say C.
We are adjourned at 8:56, and we will be back in session on Tuesday, March the 12th. Good evening.